Good morning, everybody. It is Thursday, February 15th, 8:46 a.m., and we are live once again on the Market Open. Good morning, everybody. Hope everyone's having a good day. We've got a lot to talk about. It seems like this market every day is giving us more and more to talk about because this market is not taking a break. And every day when I wake up and I check my phone, I think the first app I check at this point is Robinhood. It's just like, it is what it is, right? That's why I invested in the damn company. I was like, you know what? This is just becoming too prominent in my life. The market's up. The market cannot take a breather. And I think the theme of today's show is going to be trying to figure out what exactly is continuing this momentum. How is it continuing to happen? And really, if there is any slowdown, because I think that's all what we're trying to figure out in terms of should we sell, should we hold, should we keep buying? What exactly is going on right now in the broader market? Palantir is pushing $26 in the pre-market. It is at $25.40. Do we get to 26? I don't know, but we are above $25 in the pre-markets. We've only closed at $25 two times in the past in the past week, but we really haven't gotten here since fall or summer of 2021, where we were at these $25 ranges. And so the fact that, over the course of 2 years, we're back at 25 and we're maintaining, more importantly, 25 is absolutely incredible. SMCI is at $940 in the pre-market. It just got a price target upgrade of $1,040 by Bank of America. So we're going to be talking about that. S&P back to $500. Bitcoin, $52,268. This is a market that is just absolutely incredible in terms of how it's acting, what it's working on, and where the momentum is coming from. You got Google that's down in the pre-market for a bunch of reasons. You got Warren Buffett who sold some Apple. So Apple's down about 1% in the pre-market. There's just a lot going on, a lot to talk about, and we're going to analyze it all today as we get into the Market Open. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Top Dasher, Jacquees, Gerald, Rich, Riza, Andy, Victor Hernandez, Van, Kim, Kaylee, Yeti, Ray, Greg, Rugans, Chris, Carter, Deli, Taizuko, Defin, Sanjay, what's up? Jayberg, Vadim, Seattle, JB, Valero, hello, Benny, Tristel, Abhishek, Jittery Hobo, Jan, Andy, Zermatt, Ty Gordon, Stevie Stone. Don't forget me, Amit. I won't forget you, Stevie. Thank you for being here. Doug, Midwest, Zermatt Holdings LLC. She says, shout out to Zermatt Holdings LLC. Felicia, Taizuko. Thank you, everybody, for being here. All right, let's get into it. So Dario's comment says, good morning, everybody. All this euphoria is making me extremely nervous. I'm not going to lie, Dario. I also am feeling a bit nervous. Now, I'm not feeling nervous in the context of there's some massive crash coming. I'm feeling more nervous in the context of when does the market decide enough is enough, right? And that doesn't mean we're going to get a massive crash. That doesn't mean there's some, epic bubble waiting to just pop and all that. But it does mean that maybe we need a little bit of a break. And the question is, how long will that break be sustaining itself? And what broader implications does that break have on the economy? Remember, when the stock market is doing well, it doesn't necessarily mean that Main Street in terms of like regular people's lives are getting any better because most people don't invest in the stock market. But it does mean that businesses have capital and liquidity to be able to do different things. And as a result of that, when stocks are going higher, there is a chance that companies can do different investments. There's a chance that Google can take more risks because they're not that worried about their share price. They're willing to do different things, right? They can invest in other companies. The metaverse, Zuckerberg, over the past 2 years, all these different AI companies and VR and AR got investments from Facebook, got potential buyouts from Facebook because they weren't that worried about pleasing shareholders because they knew that their stock was doing okay. Now, when the stock is in the gutter, when you're at $88 in October 2022, people got to get laid off. So it's not like the stock market means the regular economy is doing well. It's just we are in such a unique time where the stock market's doing well. The regular economy, quite frankly, with 5.5% interest rates is doing phenomenal in terms of adding jobs, which is, the crucial metric that at least the government cares about. Do people have the ability to do something, provide products and services and make money so they can provide for their families? And inflation's coming down. And so I think there's a variety of things going on that's causing this euphoria, and it is making people nervous, but it's not nervous to the point where there's some epic crash waiting for us. It's nervous in the context of just how much higher can it really go? How longer can this thing actually continue to keep, going up? And I think we're going to end up seeing how this will eventually play out. Okay, let's talk about Palantir. Let's start off with Palantir, and then we'll keep going. We got a bunch of news to talk about. We also, for one thing I forgot to mention, Russia is trying to nuke space. I know that sounds ridiculous. This has been confirmed by various media outlets yesterday that is what Russia is trying to do. We're going to get an update on that. This is, again, another reason why Palantir is so important. I mean, I hate to bring everything back to Palantir. Well, actually, I don't hate to bring everything. I don't hate to bring everything back to Palantir because it's Palantir, right? 25, 26 in the pre-markets. Well, we'll talk about Russia later, but if these guys are trying to build nuclear weapons to blow up satellites in space, Codestrap as well, our good friend of the channel, he was talking about this morning. I was reading a bunch of articles on it. This is why you need to defend Western values. You need to protect democracy. I did a live stream yesterday reacting to Alex Karp. That's on the channel. And this is what Karp was saying. Karp was like, you know what? We don't want to run off to the metaverse. We want to fix problems in the real world. And in order to fix problems in the real world, then we need to actually focus on what's going on right now, right? And that is why I think the market is continuously realizing maybe Palantir is a lot more than they said they were. 25.28 in the pre-markets. Right now we have volume of about 994,000. So about 1 million shares before the market opens. Yesterday, we had volume of about 107 million. It's very interesting because volume is dying out for Palantir. 107 million is a lot, but a couple, last week we had 420 million, 250 million, 220 million. And then the last day we had 150 million. The past couple of days we've had only 100 million. So volume is starting to come down. Average volume is about 70 million. It used to be 56 million. So it's obviously went up by a bit. My question is, when does the volume get back to the 60 to $50 million share range that it was at before earnings? And I think one of the reasons the price is so elevated right now on Palantir is simply because of the fact that there is enough volume and there's enough buyers actually chasing the stock. And that's why we're seeing a lot more demand for the stock happen. Inflow distribution. Yesterday, we had 484 million come in, 509 million come out. After hours is when Palantir continued to go up about 0.2%. It was up 4.91% on the day. I made a post about this on Twitter a couple of days ago, but my thing is that you can argue Palantir is overvalued in the context of it needs a pullback because it just went up way too quickly. I think that's reasonable. What I don't think people can argue is that Palantir doesn't deserve the valuation that's getting if a company like Snowflake's getting a $70 billion valuation, or a company like NVIDIA and SMCI are also getting these astronomical valuations. At some point, it really starts to dawn upon the market that what are these companies providing in terms of value? And are we willing to pay a little bit more for a company like Palantir that we think is going to grow not only into the valuation, but grow past the valuation, given how much growth is happening in AI writ large? And as a result of that, that is very exciting. Kaiser in the chat says bad times are good for Palantir. That is correct. And this is why I kind of brought up that Russia nuclear thing. Look, I don't even know if that's going to turn into a real thing, but the fact that there are stories leaking that Russia is trying to figure out how can they use nuclear weapons to blow up satellites in space to stop communication and obviously stop geospatial intelligence coming back to the United States with the variety of satellites that we have. I mean, SpaceX and Starlink have 60,000 satellites floating around space. That is a real national security threat. And the way to defeat that is not only geopolitically, but to have software and technology that helps you make sure you can defend yourself against it. So this is where Palantir becomes incredibly important. Now, SMCI is at $935 right now in the pre-markets. Again, I don't really know what to say about this. I don't know if anyone has a justification for this. Year to date, SMCI is up. So, yesterday it was up 191%. It is up 935. It is up 235%. So it went from being up 190% to being up 234% in about 2 days. It is up $665 year to date, which means on January 2nd, you could have bought this stock for $280. It is now $935. I don't know, dude. I don't know. It's starting to feel a little bubbly. It's starting to feel like, we're taking a bubble bath, and it's, there's a lot more bubbles than there is water in that bath. And it's just feeling like this is a little too much. Now, I may be saying it feels like too much because it's going too quick. Granted, I haven't gone through all the numbers of SMCI, so I'm not the biggest expert on them. I do know they're a hardware business. I do know they have 8% margins. I do know that they're growing 103% year over year. They're trading at a 36 PE. The question becomes, how long can that growth continue? Here's what B of A said about SMCI. Okay. Supermicro initiated with a buy at Bank of America. There you go. February 15th. The Bank of America initiated coverage of Supermicro with a buy rating of $1,040. The firm thinks the provider of server and storage solutions will be a beneficiary of AI-driven demand growth and believes the market for AI servers is much larger than factored in street models. The firm expects the market for AI servers to grow on average by 50% over the next 3 years and expects Supermicro's revenue to grow even faster. So here's the thing. When an analyst comes out and puts out a price target, and this is sort of their logic, it's just going to keep growing. It's a kind of lazy analysis to me at the end of the day. There has to be something greater to be able to make this argument that, this is necessarily correct. and this is true. But at the end of the day, it's not like it's the craziest argument. It definitely feels like they're doing a little pumpy pump on this stock because they want to keep getting it higher. And they're saying, well, it can keep going up. But it does feel a little bit like, well, does it have to go up this quick? And so the argument I don't think is about SMCI's growth and their ability to continue to gain market share and CAGR at the levels at which the overall AI demand market is CAGRing at. But the question is, how quick should the market be pricing in those returns that are not guaranteed yet? There is an assumption that it's guaranteed, but it's not guaranteed in terms of their overall growth with AI spend, and give them that premium in the short term. And Bank of America is saying, well, you can do it a couple years out and that's going to be okay. My question becomes, when NVIDIA releases earnings, if they don't have the best numbers, does SMCI collapse? I think the answer to that is unequivocally yes. I think if NVIDIA has okay numbers, SMCI maybe doesn't really collapse. They maybe just go down a little bit. And if NVIDIA has great numbers, SMCI is going above 1,000. So this is going to be a very, very interesting story to keep our minds around. And obviously Palantir, right, at 25.34, if NVIDIA continues to do what it needs to do, SMCI and Palantir, all these stocks are going to benefit from it. But I think NVIDIA is going to be the core epicenter of what ends up happening. At the end of the day, I would not chase SMCI. It looks like it's headed for 1,000, and that means maybe you can get in cheap if you get in at 933, but maybe you're buying at the top at 933 because one day the market just wakes up and it's like, you know what, this is stupid. We can't give a company a 8x in 7 months, no matter how much we think it's going to grow. Right. And so I don't know. You got small caps that are incredibly, I wouldn't say necessarily undervalued, but they really haven't got a lot of momentum. IWM Russell getting above 201 today, but small caps really haven't broken out the way we thought they would broke out. Tom Lee kind of predicted we would have this melt up and then eventually we would crash. And then a lot of that money that's in large caps would rotate to small caps. Maybe that's when we have a pullback. That's where the money rotates to. And if you buy SMCI at 933, you're at the top of that rotation, or maybe you're just beginning for SMCI's growth. It's really hard to determine it. But I think it's obvious that if you're getting in at 933, you're doing a little bit of chasing, right? Even if you can handle your liquor, you're definitely a little bit of a chaser right now. And it's scary to kind of see where this ends up going. Andy says it's up 6% in the pre-market. WTF. Yeah, WTF. I would also say WTF. Robinhood is at 1343 in the pre-markets. Robinhood doing pretty well. Look, my big thing about Robinhood is that it's sustaining the momentum, right? It's like actually keeping up with the momentum. And I didn't know what to expect on Robinhood today. I ended up selling, if you guys got into the market close, I have 590 contracts. I sold 80 of them yesterday. So we have 510 left. I did not sell any in the Roth IRA. I actually want to get rid of that today. If Robinhood can pump to 14, I would love to get rid of those. And so I would only have one position left. But it barely appreciated yesterday. It went up like 20, 30%. And I was like, this should get up to 70, 80% before I want to sell. In terms of the main position, I sold 80 contracts and those were at a 65% gain. Look, here's my thesis on Robinhood. The reason I didn't sell a lot of contracts, again, the plan was to get the initial 30,000 I put in so I can be playing with house money. I got 11,000 of that 30,000. So I got 37% of that initial capital. And I kind of want to let the rest ride, because even if we have a short-term pullback, even if we go back to $11 or $12, and this is what I said on Twitter yesterday, that is buying the dip. I want to buy that dip. If we get to 11 or 12 or 10 or 9, for goodness sakes, on Robinhood, and they're bringing in $4 billion in deposits a month, I'm buying that dip. I think it's obvious at this point. I think Robinhood has a very high potential, this is my opinion, of doing what Palantir ended up doing, which is they had a game-changing earnings, and in every metric, absolutely game-changing. And as a result of that, the street recognizes, okay, yeah, this is not like the most innovative AI company in the world, but at an $11 billion valuation with almost, $5.5 billion in cash, are we willing to give it a little bit more of a premium that also has $3 billion of this bad boy on their, that they're a custodian of, which is Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin continues to maintain these levels, I think Robinhood should maintain these levels. I think Robinhood's going to be pricing in, or the analysts are going to start pricing in a lot of their forward growth in terms of the Roth IRA deposits that they're getting in terms of the assets under custody they're getting in. And if we get a risk-on environment, which we're obviously in risk-on, and interest rates start to fall, I don't think Robinhood has to go back to that $9, $10 range. Could it go back to 11? Sure. But if it's been a day and the market's like, we're going to keep you up in this 1340 range, all we have to do today is get through 14. We get through 14, we're going to have fun. We don't get through 14, we're going to be stuck for a while. So we got to get through 14 today. That's going to be really exciting, but that's why I wasn't interested really in selling a lot of Robinhood, and we'll see how that plays out. CleanSpark, $18.38 in the pre-market, up 2.97%. Bitcoin hit a high of 52.5 last night, and that's why we saw CleanSpark actually get to 1887 last night. Then it ended up dipping. Now it's at 1838. It was up 12% yesterday, up 3% right now. This one's probably going to continue to have momentum as Bitcoin does well. And at the end of the day, it's doing what it needs to do. As Bitcoin goes up, CleanSpark goes up, and we're going to see more and more what CleanSpark ends up looking like as we see momentum in the world of Bitcoin. Let's talk about what Cathie Wood bought yesterday, because this is really interesting, and this will get us into the Tesla conversation. We got to definitely talk about what happened with Tesla, and then we'll talk about Warren Buffett as well in terms of what he bought. By the way, what did you guys have for breakfast today? Put it in the chat. I got a caramel latte from Dunkin' Donuts, and then I drank it. Like I took a sip in the driveway, and they forgot the caramel. So I politely went back into the Dunkin' Donuts and I said, "Hey, can you put some more caramel? There's no caramel in this." And the dude pumped the caramel worse than SMCI is being pumped at Bank of America. He put so much caramel in there. And I had a feeling he did. I went back into my car, took a sip, and I was like, I'm drinking sugar right now. And I couldn't drink. So I didn't really get my latte this morning. I really enjoy getting in the car, taking a 10-minute drive to my local Dunkin', going to the drive-through and just picking up a latte. And somehow they messed it up. And it was so much caramel. So I really didn't get my breakfast today. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe I need to stop with the caramel lattes, because honestly, I'm like a little girl drinking that instead of regular coffee. But still, I would like to know what you guys had for breakfast today, because I didn't get to enjoy it. I had cornflakes with milk. Dude, I haven't had cornflakes with milk in so long. Cornflakes with milk. Interesting. Okay. Here's what Cathie Wood ended up buying yesterday. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about bread with Nutella and espresso. That's actually, I haven't had Nutella. I think I've had Nutella once, dude. I've never really been a Nutella guy, but I've never really used it for like breakfast or anything like that. But I've heard it's very good. Okay, so she sold a little bit of Robinhood. That makes sense. I think they were probably just rebalancing. So they sold 120,000 shares of that. She bought 23,000 shares of Tesla. Okay. Then in one ETF. Then she bought another 8,000 in the other one. And then she bought 113,000 in the other one. So she spent about $28 million on Tesla. Delu said you had sushi for breakfast. Okay, that's interesting. I've never had sushi for breakfast, but that actually sounds pretty good. Actually, that doesn't sound the worst idea in the world. So she bought another 27 million of Tesla at 190. Okay, she sold a crap ton of Coinbase at 152. Coinbase's earnings today. We'll be streaming that live today. That's going to be very interesting to see what happens with Coinbase. Zoom, she sold 63,000. Twilio, they had a crappy earnings, dude. Twilio grew at like 5%. Their stock right now in the pre-market, they're down 11%. I don't know. Cathie has $215 million in Twilio. Like, I don't know why you have bought $250 million of Twilio and then you're selling 51,000 on a crappy earnings, right? Like, it's just very weird she got into it in the first place. But she bought a ton of Tesla. She bought 102,000 shares of Rocket Lab. And then she sold a bunch of Coinbase and a bunch of Twilio and Zoom. Now, why is she buying Tesla at these 190 prices? It seems like, and this is the news that broke last night about Elon Musk and Tesla. Elon Musk disclosed a 13G or a 13D, which is the filing you have to do with the SEC. Everyone has to do that every 45 days. And apparently, Elon now owns 20% of Tesla. Why is this important? Because Elon Musk only owned 13% the last time these 13Gs came out, right? So the street got really bullish. That's why Tesla went up about 2% after hours, because they were like, well, wait a second, Elon's been accumulating shares. This whole battle Elon's having with 25%, 20%, et cetera. What's actually going on? Elon says he's going to leave if he doesn't get 25%. Then his compensation package got canceled. So yesterday it was revealed that he owns a 20% stake when it comes to Tesla. Now, there is some controversy here because you got Gary Black, who's obviously a big fund manager when it comes to Tesla, saying, no, that's not true. Elon only has 13% of Tesla outright, and he has 7.6% in unexercised stock options. And it's very weird because the unexercised stock options are kind of saying, well, wait a second, that's not real control. You don't actually own 20% of the company. You own a sort of passive stake in the company that's not necessarily exercised yet. And so it's very interesting. As soon as that 13F came out, it basically showed Musk owning 706 million shares, like kind of outright. And people are wondering, like, well, wait a second, does he actually own those shares? Because if they're unexercised stock options, then he doesn't really own those shares actually bought out. So there was a little bit of confusion there. And that's also dealing with yesterday when it came to Elon Musk. Gary Black says he doesn't own those shares. The market's thinking, well, no, we kind of think he's going to own those shares, and that's why the stock went up. It's going to be really interesting today to see how the market ends up reacting to this, because there's still a little bit of confusion in terms of what he owns and what he doesn't own. My bet is that he has a passive stake, but it's not an actual stake of 25%. Of a 20% ownership. On top of that, you've had Elon Musk officially change the company for SpaceX in terms of its state of incorporation from Delaware to Texas. From Delaware to Texas, which is also something that was, rumored to be happening. I think they officially did this for Tesla, if I'm not wrong, but they got SpaceX out from Delaware to Texas. And, there's a lot of beneficial reasons to be incorporating in Delaware, especially based on their tax law. But after one of the core Supreme Court judges canceled his compensation package, it kind of made sense to be like, well, you know what? We cannot have this happen again with SpaceX. Because I don't know Elon's compensation package plan for SpaceX. I don't think it's public, but I would imagine it's up there in the context of Tesla. Maybe it's not 55 billion or whatever, but it's probably a lot as long as Elon continues to do what he needs to do. And you want no random shareholder that owns 9 shares to be able to get you out of that, I would imagine. So Texas, as Doug says, is the best. It seems like Texas is embracing companies, embracing entrepreneurship, embracing more freedom. Miami and Florida, the same thing, right? No state income tax. And I think we're going to see an exodus out of Silicon Valley and New York, not to the point where those states die off in terms of their importance, but there are going to be people. Like, my dream was to live in New York City one day, have a nice high-rise apartment, overlook Central Park, all that stuff, right? Like that fantasy. The more I think about it, the more I'm like, what if it was Miami, right? What if it's nice weather? And there's a major tech scene there. The financial sector is more in New York versus Miami. But like in general, it's just a different way of thinking about this stuff. And I think Elon's embracing this as well when it comes to Texas. Like, why at this point would you let yourself rot in Delaware, where people can continue to do horrible things? I wonder why Palantir is incorporated in Colorado. Now, the reason why Palantir left Silicon Valley is because Palantir was like, this is ridiculous. We need to get the hell out of here because the culture is so bad. And again, that culture in New York and Silicon Valley, it's worse in Silicon Valley than it is in New York. But if that culture continues to erode, I would imagine more people are going to go to places that embrace freedom and liberal values like Miami, like a Texas. And Palantir said, you know what, forget it, we're leaving. I don't know why they picked Colorado, but they definitely weren't staying in Silicon Valley. And they ended up making that decision as well. Here is Josh Brown on what's going on in the markets and why the QQQ and tech stocks are out of control. Let's see what he has to say, and then we'll move on. Here we go.
To our talk of the tape, the fate of the bull run for stock a little bit because it's your biggest holding.
That's all I want to talk about.
I'm sure it is, but we're going to talk about the market. Was it a big overreaction yesterday or not?
I don't know. I think the reaction only makes sense when you look at it in the context of what has preceded it. We really are in rarefied air. If you look at the RSIs on some of the leading stocks that are at the vanguard of the rally, that really started, let's say, late October, early November. And if any,
a lot of those RSIs are above 90, which, again, if you get above 70, you're overbought. When you're at 90, above 90, it's getting intense.
Thing has only accelerated here into February. When you look at stocks like Super Micro Computer, which I know is an amazing company, but also sounds like something Christopher Moltisanti would have been pitching on The Sopranos. You look at a stock go from 200 to 800 because it's AI, as if it wasn't AI, 600 points ago. That kind of action, and you start seeing 87 RSIs, 91 RSIs. You never see that in a middle phase of a market.
When you mention RSI, just to make sure everybody's on the same page,
relative strength index.
It's an indication of whether things are overbought in some respects, and that's
100%.
what you're talking about.
So RSI calculation, very simply, is measuring the strength of a stock, and it's doing so in a mathematical way, so we don't have people licking their finger and looking for the wind. It's a way of calculating, okay, the stock's gone up a lot, but relative to the market, relative to itself, how egregious has the move been? A 70 RSI is what the pros would tell you. All right, things maybe need to cool off a little bit. You could remain overbought for a long time, though. It's not a great, buy-sell indicator on the day you hit 70. When you hit 90, there are no sellers, or every short seller has automatically been converted into somebody who's covering. Then what? Who comes in and buys a stock at a 91 RSI? That's what we're talking about. There are a lot of those stocks in the market, and I own some of them.
No question. Look, there are those who would say, look, to your point, we were ripe. We were ripe for a consolidation, a pullback of some kind because of the very thing that you cite, whether it's the name you bring up or many of the others. The question comes down to whether the goalposts moved yesterday in a meaningful way on what the market expectations were in terms of why we got here in the first place. Economy remains good, and yet the Fed is still going to cut this year at some point, and they're going to cut several times.
It's a
base case story.
It's 0.1%, quote unquote, overheated on one monthly reading of core CPI. Like from my perspective, I'm sure that generated a lot of algorithmic stuff. These are rules-based trades that are being done dispassionately by a computer. Those run their course. You find 10 algorithms doing one trade. There's another 10 on the other side doing the opposite trade. It washes out. I don't think that's what's important. I think the real show now is how realistic our expectations are for the AI-related earnings growth that this market needs to justify what we're seeing. And when I say market, I want to be clear. The next comments I'm going to make are specific to the NASDAQ 100. It's not that these companies aren't important to the Dow and the S&P. They are. But what happens with their share price has a much stronger reverberation in the NAS 100. I think the NAS 100 is out of control. I think some of the moves that we're seeing in NASDAQ 100-like stocks, Supermicro being an example, Arista being an example. Look, I own CrowdStrike. It just tripled. What do you do? I don't know what to do with it. I don't want to sell it. I love the CEO. I love the company. I love the opportunity. But that's the reality. This is the kind of environment that we're in. So I'm worried about the NASDAQ primarily. I'm not worried there's a crash. I'm worried that next week, a week from today, February 21st, after the close, we're going to get this Q4 from NVIDIA. I'm starting to think, like, what could they possibly say that's going to keep all the balls in the air? I'm running out of, and I'm along. I'm not like one of these bears that watched the whole thing go up and tried to call the top every week.
You know, what Josh is saying right there about a couple things I think is incredibly important. Number one, what he's talking about RSI. So some people are asking what is Palantir's RSI. Relative Strength Index, the way I understand it, is simply a mathematical reading on the technicals of how a stock is performing. And when it gets under 30, it is oversold, meaning that is generally the time where you can use some metrics. That's not the only metric. There's a lot of other fundamental things you have to look at, like the company itself. But that's one of the metrics to say, hey, on a technical level, this company is cheap right now, and the stock is due for a bounce. When it's above 70, it's technically overbought. The 14-day RSI for Palantir is 80. The daily RSI for Palantir is 90. And that's exactly what Josh was talking about, is that a lot of these stocks, their daily relative strength index is at a 90, which at this point is a very peculiar position, because when you get over 70, people are like, all right, I'm going to sell, take some profits. When you get to 90, it's like, do you even want to sell? And think about it right now with Palantir. Do you really want to sell Palantir at 25? I don't know. Right? Like, it's like, well, do you want to sell Supermicro at 900? Not really, because it keeps going up. Do you want to sell, as he said, CrowdStrike after it triples? No. And so right now you've got shorts that are like, all right, we need to cover because these guys aren't selling. And if they were going to sell, they would have sold by now. And you've got buyers saying, well, if the shorts are going to cover and people are going to keep paying me more and more and more, then I will exit, but I'm going to be greedier for my exit because these shares are in high demand. And as a result of that, you've got this market that is very weird in terms of the dynamics of who is actually willing to buy for this stuff. Is it speculators? Is it traders? Is it people who have massive amounts of FOMO? Is it institutions that basically missed the entire bull run from 2023 and they need to have some exposure? And then who's actually willing to sell to those people? And at what prices are they officially going to be able to sell? And so this is the interesting thing that's happening right now with the market, and it's hard to sort of understand. We've got another stock that is up 80% right now in the pre-markets. That is correct, 80%. SoundHound AI, ticker symbol SOUN. I've heard about this company for a while. I never really looked into it deeply. I did know that they are enabling AI-based voice power technology for a variety of industries. So the basic way to think about them is like when you call up a bank. This is probably not exactly the example, but this is kind of the example. And you're walking through the automated person that's trying to say, hey, where do I take you? Do I take you to a representative? Do I take you to blah, 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 blah? That's their technology that's powering it. And it's using AI to make that stuff even better and better and better. Because a lot of times you just say representative, and you try to just find a real human. If this thing can become a real human, it really does save a lot of power for you, a lot of time for you. And then there's so many other commercial applications and cars and things that they're working on with their technology. NVIDIA apparently invested in them yesterday. And that's why they're up 88%. NVIDIA had to disclose in their 13Fs that they made an investment in SoundHound. And as a result of that, that's why it is up. Right here, here's a couple of updates on SoundHound being up. Not only NVIDIA, yes, but NVIDIA is one of the main companies that got them. So here's what Dan Ives had to say. He says right here on SoundHound, NVIDIA just made a small investment in Sound per filing last night. We view this as a clear positive indicator for the company, as this is an investment now that further solidifies the company's brand within the AI revolution, with the godfather of AI, Jensen, and NVIDIA now backing Sound. So obviously Dan Ives is a big fan of NVIDIA. And if they are backing a company, his argument is like, look, they're probably not backing a company that's crap. They're backing a company that they see there's some real technology in. And as a result of that, the market has basically moved. At this point, if you get the Jensen blessing, it's kind of similar to getting the Buffett blessing, which we'll talk about in a second. Because Jensen Huang is the leader of this AI revolution. And if he personally thinks that this is happening, then it might end up happening. One thing on SoundHound, they say our market position is strengthened by the technical barriers to entry in the voice AI space, which tends to discourage new market participants. Furthermore, our technology is backed by significant investments in IP, with over 120 patents granted and over 140 patents pending, spanning multiple fields, including speech recognition, natural language understanding, machine learning, monetization, and more. We have achieved this critical momentum and thanks to long-tenured leadership team with a deep expertise and proven ability to attract and retain talent. And we want to grow in a market that is expected to be worth $160 billion per year by 2026 when it comes to voice AI transactions. Stock is up 82% in the pre-markets. Now, what does this mean? When you've got a stock that's up 82%, which was basically a penny stock because NVIDIA just like touched it, you've got a market that is so like this kind of, I think, should explain why Palantir is maybe touching $26. You've got a market that just wants everything. You got a market that wants anything and everything that touches AI, that looks at AI, that breeds AI, talks about AI, and NVIDIA basically saying, yeah, we think this SoundHound company and AI transactions is going to be meaningful. We're going to give them a little investment. It's not a big investment. We're just going to put some money into them. The market's like, all right, well, if NVIDIA thinks it's going to be a big thing, this company's worth how much? What's their market cap? 577 million, right? I mean, when a company's only worth 577 million on the public markets, it's basically a penny stock. And NVIDIA saying, all right, we're going to touch it a little bit. And it's now today it's going to be worth maybe $1 billion. That's what gets the market excited. So that's also what we're seeing right now in the context of NVIDIA. Noodler says insiders at Sound are dumping every day. See, I don't know the internal politics or dynamics of Sound. All I know is that they're up because NVIDIA invested. And that your comment right there goes to the broader point of this market. There's an obvious, clear bad thing you're seeing at Sound, which is that insiders are dumping every day. I haven't verified that. I'm just trusting that comment's correct. And the market doesn't give a shit because NVIDIA invested, right? I don't even know how much NVIDIA invested. I don't think it was like billions of dollars, but NVIDIA invested. The market's like, all right, this is meaningful. This is why February 21st is going to be the most important thing. June says NVIDIA only invested 200,000. Okay, well that already, right? Like they only invested 200K and this is happening, So in general, it's one of those things where it's like if NVIDIA touches you and the market's willing to give you 82% of value in the context of the market, well, it just makes you think that there is something going on in regards to how the market is thinking of AI. $200,000 gets a stock up 82% and almost doubles their market cap. I mean, and it's also one of those things that makes you think, well, wait a second, is this just bullshit? Like if we're going to be honest, is this actual nonsense that the market is doing this? Is this January 2021 where the market's like, okay, you have Web3 in your name, you have a chain of blocks, here's $1 billion, which is basically what happened. And quite frankly, I felt vindicated when the whole blockchain thing started to collapse a little bit. Not blockchain collapsing, but a lot of these stupid Web3 startups going to, because all of this shit was nonsense, dude. We're going to decentralize the fabric of time. It's like, shut the fuck up. No, you're not, right? But they got $1 billion valuation, $5 billion valuation. And this happened in 2021. Is SoundHound saying, hey, we're going to do automatic voice AI processing in a market that's worth 160 billion, yada, yada, yada? Is that actually real or is that BS? And I think after NVIDIA earnings and over the next few months, we're going to figure out if this stuff is legitimately real or not. My hunch is that it's real. Okay. My hunch in 2021 was that it's all bullshit with the crypto stuff. Crypto's real, but a lot of the Web3 startups were nonsense. My hunch is that there is a voice processing AI market because Lisa Su, we saw her talk in the Morning Open a couple of days ago. She was saying AI is going to impact every part of our life. every part of our life. And if that's the case, there's going to be a bunch of technology and companies in that space that are going to be playing a role. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how that ends up playing out and where the market thinks that this is going to happen. 1.7 million shares of SoundHound were bought by NVIDIA. Okay, that's not too bad. 1.7 million shares. Well, how much is the stock? The stock's at what, $2? Oh, so they invested about 2 million, not 200,000. Or that's what it looks like. Maybe they invested at a much lower price on Sound. Let me look at their stock chart real quick. SoundHound was in December. Let's say they made this investment in December, November. Yeah, it got to a low of $1.57. So maybe if they bought at the low, they bought 2 million shares, they put in about 2.5 million, $3 million into this company. Could you imagine if this shit 10x's, right? And now that 2 million becomes 30 million. I mean, to Jensen Huang, that's like a couple pennies, but still, it's pretty exciting to see how that's happening. Nick says, is it too late to buy SoundHound now? I wouldn't buy them up 80% on the day. But then again, that's sort of conventional, safe, responsible investing. But next thing you know, this thing's up 500% because the godfather of AI touched it and the market is just jizzing over the fact that NVIDIA put in $2 million, which is not a lot of money. And, it's one of those things where it's like, I wouldn't chase this thing. I can't handle my liquor. I need a chaser when I drink Jack Daniels. I need some Coke, and maybe some blow as well. The different type of Coke. I'm just kidding about that. But I wouldn't be chasing this stock. Nonetheless, the stock might end up just keep running because that's how it's playing out. So that's what we have with Jensen Huang. And he is now seeming like the person who, when he touches something, magic happens. There's another guy for when he touches something, magic ends up happening. And his name is Mr. Warren Buffett, which people would argue is the absolute GOAT of investing all time. Even though he doesn't touch tech stocks, even though, he's not making 1,000x on all these, private companies and stuff, people still think he's the GOAT. Well, and for good reason. I mean, Warren Buffett is like, he's done, I think, everything you can possibly imagine when it comes to investing. He's had his fair share of losses, but he's also had his big winners. One of his big winners in 2016 was Apple. And yesterday, he sold out of 10 million shares of Apple. Now, a lot of people are going to be like, but admit he has 995 million shares. So that doesn't matter. This is like a very simple, less than 1% of his portfolio. All he's doing is selling a little bit. I get it. I understand. But I'm just saying, I don't think Buffett sold, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, in the past 5 or 6 years. I could be wrong, but I don't think I'm wrong here. I think Buffett has kept his stake and he's just bought more. I think whether it's 10 million, 1 million, it could have been one share. Buffett does not buy for no reason. He does not sell for no reason. At some point, I think he realized, wait a second, the stock's trading at a 30 PE. They're not growing. The Vision Pro, everyone's returning that shit. I'm not saying the Vision Pro is not going to be big, but it might take a couple of generations for that thing to take off. It's not like an instant hit like the iPad. The iPad needed a couple of generations to become super mainstream, but it was an instant hit as soon as it launched. Like people had use cases for the iPad. I think Buffett, who really doesn't give a shit about technology, he just really liked that Apple was building consumer products that everyone in the world needs. If there's not a need to upgrade to the next iPhone, if there's not an AI app store that is compelling, and if there's definitely not a real use case for the Vision Pro, you got to be looking like, wait a second. Why am I not taking some profits? At the end of the day, taking profits is taking profits. Okay. I don't care if it's 1 share or 10 million shares, taking profits is taking profits. So Russ says he sold 2 years ago and he said it was a mistake. I actually think you're right about that. I remember watching an interview where he did say that. The question is now, does he think he's making a mistake, or does he think that this is the right time to take some profits? And if it's the right time to take some profits, then maybe, we're seeing a little bit of sell side pressure when it comes to Apple. It was really interesting to see that he ended up disclosing this yesterday, because this is a guy that collects so much from dividends from Apple alone. And I mean, his average is like what? I think his average is like $25 on Apple, or closer to like maybe 30. I think he's 5x'd on Apple. He invested in, he had to. He invested in when they were a $500 billion company. So their company, we're at $3 trillion right now, right? So he's up 6x on the investment, or 5.5x. So, and he's up, hundreds of billions because he invested when they were $500 billion company. So, it makes sense that he's taking some profits. Obviously, we'll see if he keeps selling off more over the next couple of weeks. Maybe this is also why, maybe Apple has been stuck in this 183 to 195 range. Maybe it's because there's a lot of sell side pressure coming from some of the big guys every day as it gets higher, right? Like it gets to the 190s and then Buffett's like, all right, I'm going to take a little bit more off the top. Maybe that's what's happening. We'll know in another 45 days if he trims it more. But if he goes 2 consecutive quarters trimming Apple, I think there's something interesting going on in regards to Apple. Okay, now he also has a secret position. So CNBC reported yesterday that he did not announce a secret position. Warren Buffett has been accumulating a stock for the past 7 months, and he got special privileges by the SEC to not announce it. How did he get special privileges by the SEC to not announce it? I don't know, because I thought this is a fair market where like everyone has the same opportunity, but the SEC allowed him to not disclose it. And so yesterday, the SEC continuously reaffirmed his ability to not disclose because of the fact that it's going to rise up the price. They did this a couple of years ago as well. So I guess he has a really good relationship with the SEC. His current portfolio is Apple, Bank of America, Coca-Cola, Chevron, Kraft Heinz, Citibank, MasterCard, Visa, all of these kind of financial companies, dividend-paying companies, but he's buying another stock. Apple is 50% of the portfolio. That's the one kind of consumer tech play. I think it's either Disney, PayPal, or Verizon. I'm probably wrong on all 3 of these. I would love to know what you guys' comments are in the chat. What do you think he could possibly buy? He could possibly be buying, but I think it's one of these 3. Thomas says, "Why should he have to announce it so people can copy him?" Well, I get why he doesn't want to announce it because if people copy him, then it's going to go up. But my point is like that's getting a special privilege, right? Like everyone has to announce this shit. So if you ask the SEC, hey, don't let me announce it because it's going to drive the stock price up, and the SEC is like, okay, that means you're getting the ability to accumulate while it's low before everyone else finds out, and then it pops. And so it's obviously not fair, but it's whatever, dude. It's Buffett's world. We're just living in it. He's the godfather of investing. So it is what it is. But look, I think it's either Disney, PayPal, or Verizon. Why Verizon? Because they have a dividend. And they got down to $29. Now I know he sold off it on Verizon a while ago, but it got really low, lower than where he sold off at. So maybe he got interested again. They had an 8% dividend a couple months ago. Disney, he's always loved the intellectual property of Disney. I don't think Disney is the best investment. I don't really give a shit about Disney Plus. I don't really think they have a moat going for. I don't think Disney is that interesting outside of ESPN, which is like one of their assets that I think matters. But outside of that, like Disney's not interested in me, but he loves that brand so much. And then finally, PayPal, I think is the best opportunity. And I think a lot of people on FinTwit also agreed with me last night, even though, if it ends up being PayPal, I think a lot of us will be like, I think FinTwit will, which is financial Twitter, they're just going to go crazy because everyone has been arguing, what is this stock? PayPal's doing almost 10% buybacks. PayPal is a payments company. We know Buffett loves financials. It's not really a tech company. They're a payment processor. They're like Visa, but at a much smaller scale. Right? Visa's doing trillions of dollars. Payments doing about $500-600 billion every quarter. Or this last quarter, I think it was about $400 billion. And they're deeply undervalued if you look at any model. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's PayPal. I don't think it's going to be PayPal, but if it is PayPal, everyone would erupt, and I think PayPal would go up probably 20% in a day if that ends up happening, just like what happened to Apple 8 years ago. But we'll see. Hopefully, it'll be disclosed over the next few quarters, and we'll see what happens. Okay. This is what we have. It is a financial. Yeah, it's probably going to be a financial stock. It's just the question of, which one. It was disclosed that it's financial related. Okay. So maybe it's PayPal if it's financially related. We'll see. It wouldn't be crazy, but if it's something else, I wouldn't be surprised either because PayPal is going to be a hard one to get on. Also, PayPal has been depressed so much. You would argue PayPal would go up a little bit off that Buffett, but maybe if he's been doing it every time it got to the lows and he's been doing it quietly, maybe they've been able to keep the stock low as he's been accumulating, but we'll see over the next couple months. All right, we got 40 seconds until the market opens. This is going to be very exciting. Thank you, everybody, for being with me here today. Palantir is above $25, and I'm going to be very interested to see how they open, what demand is there. SMCI is at $940. Robinhood trying to fight for 14. This is going to be an exciting market open. Ultimately, to see what ends up playing out, how this market goes, and if we can continue the momentum. CleanSpark as well, up 1.46%. And let's just see if we can keep this going and if we can get to $26 on Palantir. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate it so deeply. You're spending your morning with me. 9:30 a.m. The stock market is now open. Wake your ass up. Here we go. Palantir 25.15. Down 0.22%, Nothing crazy. We're going to look back in it in a couple minutes and see what ends up happening. There is some sell side pressure, but there's enough buy side pressure to keep it in this $25 range, which is just incredible. I mean, if I told you Palantir was going to be $25 3 weeks ago, you would have laughed at me. I would have laughed at myself, right? Like, so the fact that it's at this 25 level and actually maintaining it is just incredible. We'll go back to that. Soundhound is up 68% off the Jensen Huang buy. So we got $3.74 right now. That one's definitely going to be chased. Volume on this stock, 54 million. Their average volume is 9 million. So they've basically 6x'd their volume in about 10 minutes, given Jensen Huang invested in the company. Nvidia down just a little bit, 738. Tesla 190. Twilio 11% down. CleanSpark 1858. They're up 4% on the day, 1862 on the day. There is enough demand to buy some more CleanSpark stock as Bitcoin is at 52,533. Bitcoin now up about 1% as well, 52.3. It was 20 minutes ago. Now it's at 52.5. Robinhood 13.11. So we got some sell side pressure at Robinhood at $13. If we maintain 13, I'll be very happy. If we can finally get above that $14 level, I'll be very happy as well. But maintaining 13 is the first step. So let's just see if we can stay above $13. I mean, it's been very long since we've had many, many days above 13. We always fall back into that $11 channel. So let's see if we can get there. QQQ 434, SMCI $957 is SMCI. $957. Wow. Wow. It's up 8%. It was at 930 in the pre-market. It's at 957. Let's look at DWAC. This is Donald Trump's thingy. 25%. Why is DWAC up? I don't know. Is there any news on Donald Trump? Did he come out with something? Donald Trump stock. I'm just going to type it real quick to see if there's anything. No, I don't see anything. Oh, there is something. Digital World acquisition surges on progress towards merger. So apparently the market thinks they're going to merge with Truth Social. Truth Social is going to be public. Wow. That's going to be interesting, dude. Bitcoin, by the way, trying to hit 53. Look at that. 52.7 right now on Bitcoin. Palantir, 25.31. Palantir is green, almost up 1% on the day. CleanSpark, 18.70. Look at that bad boy run. And then Robinhood, 13.28. Now, if Truth Social goes public, that means we're going to know the daily active users. We're going to know the revenue. We're going to know their other investors. That's going to be really interesting if Trump has to disclose everything going on Truth Social. Let me know in the chat if you use that app. I don't use it. I think I made an account like a year ago, and I really haven't been on it in a long time. Let me know if you use that at all, because Truth Social, DWAC, right now the market cap is at $2 billion. Is Truth Social worth $2 billion? I don't know. I don't think it's necessarily worth, tens of billions, but to say it's only worth a couple $100 million, if they have 10, 20 million people using it, it could be worth $2 billion. $2 billion is not crazy. If they're doing maybe 100 million in revenue, that's not insane. So that's going to be really interesting to see what plays out when it comes to truth. Bitcoin is trying to get 53. Bitcoin is trying to get 53,000 dollars. Where's Snowflake? Is Snowflake red? Snowflake's red. Palantir's green. Maybe there's a little bit of divergence happening. Snowflake is red. Palantir is green. I don't know. Snowflake 77 billion. Palantir right now pushing 55 billion. That is incredible right now. Robinhood 1342. Okay, so that Robinhood dip was eaten up. That Robinhood dip to $13.08 was eaten the F up in the past 2 minutes. People wanted those shares. Let me check on my options. Let me check on the Roth IRA. Where are those options at? Yeah, this $25 call is not moving, dude. The options market, the IV crush is not the best on that. So that one is up, but it's not up a lot. My actual options are up. We're up 72% on those. So we're up 20 grand on those on the main position. But yeah, the 2025 ones are not moving. We need 14, 15 to get the 2026 ones are moving. 2025, we need a little bit more price action there. SMCI 952, QQQ 433, S&P 499. Bitcoin is $200 away from 53. It's $200 away from 53. I think it might try to catch 53. Look at this. And you know why this is happening, guys? The inflows to the ETFs are real. They are very real. And the reports I've been looking at is that these inflows are not stopping. BlackRock now has like $6 billion alone in their IBIT ETF. That one should be up today as well. So IBIT ETF, $30. That's up 2%. That was up 5% yesterday. ARK-B is up another 2%. What's really interesting with, again, the Bitcoin ETFs is imagine you have options on these ETFs. So if you have the ETF, yeah, it's moving 2%, 3%, that's fine. But if you have an option and Bitcoin goes to 60,000 and these ETFs go up, 30, 40%, and you have some leaps and that bad boy turns into 400%, it's not that easy to make 400% on Bitcoin if you didn't get in early. But you can make 400% on some options on Bitcoin. This is why these ETFs are so exciting, especially for traders and speculators, because there's so much momentum in the crypto space that if there's another way to play it and you do it through the ETF, that also gets people very, very excited when it comes to Bitcoin. Wow, Google's down. Oh my goodness, Google didn't recover. I forgot about Google. We talked about this yesterday on the market close. Guys, we just had my first successful timing of the market ever. I sold at the short-term top on fucking Google. I got out at 149. I actually got out and I took some money before I left. We sold it to a schmuck. I'm sorry if you're watching this, but I've been the schmuck many times. And at least on this one, I have not been the schmuck. Whoever bought those options for me was the schmuck 3 days ago, because Google's down about 4% from when I sold. And the reason it's down is because OpenAI yesterday came out with there's a rumor that they're working on a web search product, which to me is not that a reason for Google to be down, because that's just Bing 2.0. Like, does it really matter? Like no one uses Bing. Not as many people use it as Google. So why does the market care? Well, the reason the market cares is because Google has a monopoly in search. And any chipping away of that monopoly, whether it's OpenAI, whether it's Bing, whether it's NVIDIA, whether whoever comes up with something. NVIDIA, by the way, released their own version of ChatGPT that runs locally on Python on your computer, like on-prem. So that's not like a competitor with Google, but that's kind of a competitor in terms of if you're searching on that NVIDIA thing and you're not searching Google, Google's losing ad money. So Google has everything to lose, nothing to gain. They have not innovated in years. And I think the market's really scared right now. I think the market's really, really, really scared right now when it comes to Google. Now, look, Google's going to be okay long term. I don't think there's any problem. But in the short term, it is volatile to hold something that's barely innovating, that has a search monopoly that's starting to not deteriorate, but maybe is perceptually deteriorating. And obviously, it has the market very scared when it comes to an AI revolution that Google might not really be participating in a meaningful way. Apple right now, 183. They're down on that. I think they're down because the Buffett selling thing got the market a little scared about that. Palantir back down to 24.97. So there's a ton of sell side pressure at 25. We'll see if it can continue to make those highs again. But right now at 24.93, we'll see how low that goes. Robinhood 13.33, CleanSpark 18.40. Okay, so we're seeing a little bit of a correction. Bitcoin 52.67 right now. SMCI 9.22. Look at that. That was a big drop. SMCI went from 970 to 930 in like 2 minutes. So you definitely had some sellers right there. NVIDIA's down 1%. Tesla's up 2%, 192. You definitely had some sellers. People at 950 were like, all right, this is getting stupid. We're going to sell a little bit. Verizon at 40. Paramount is down 3%. Buffett also, I think he sold off like 30% of this thing yesterday. So that's why this one is down. They're going to eventually get acquired. That's the only thing that's going to help them right now. New York Community Bank, that's up 4%. SoFi is down 0.42%. People were saying, oh, what if the secret stock for Buffett is SoFi? I don't think it's SoFi because it's a bank. There are so many better banks if you're Buffett that you could buy than SoFi. Second of all, the only sort of moat SoFi has is the tech platform, and Buffett doesn't care about tech. So I don't think that Buffett would buy SoFi. I think he already has shares of Nubank. He already has this one. This one's at $10 right now. It was at like $7 in October. So I don't think he cares about, a fast growing bank. I think he cares about a bank that pays a dividend and a bank that's profitable. And SoFi, is barely profitable and they don't pay a dividend. And the tech platform is something he doesn't care about. SoundHound is up 54%. So if you bought when it was up 70%, you're down right now. If you bought at the top, it is up 53% of the day. NVIDIA 730, Tesla 191, Robinhood 1340. Robinhood again trying to fight to get above 1350. It really has to get to 14 if we want to hold this level. And we got to see if that momentum can keep going on. PayPal, where's PayPal right now? 59.24. PayPal's actually up a little bit. PayPal's actually up. Bot ICCS says, bro owns $200 billion worth of Apple and doesn't care about tech. So if you've heard Buffett describe what he thinks about Apple, he doesn't think it's a tech company. Now, he's not an idiot. He knows that technology is involved. He thinks it's a consumer-facing company that creates technology, which is a difference, right? I would say Palantir is a tech company, and Apple is a company that creates hardware that is powered by technology. Obviously, you can slice it tomato, but Buffett thinks of it in a fundamentally different way, which is why he's never invested in a Google or a Microsoft, because those are kind of pure play tech. Whereas Apple, the iPhone, is synonymous with just consumer ways of life, even if it's powered by technology. So that's how he thinks about his Apple investment over the long term. Robinhood 1342, S&P 500. We're back at S&P on the 500, back at S&P right there at $500. The S&P does not want to slow down. CPI could not hurt them. CPI cannot hurt them. Okay, so jobless claims. We got some macro data. Let me talk about this. The number of people claiming unemployment benefits in the U.S. fell by 8,000 from the prior week, upwardly revised value to 212,000, firmly below market expectations of 220,000. It was the lowest reading in nearly 1 month, adding to the latest jobs report that indicated historical tightness in the U.S. labor market. What does that mean? 8,000 people less than what the market expected said that they were claiming unemployment benefits. It went from 220 to 212. That means the labor market is tight. And that means the labor market is really good. It means that people have jobs, right? If you don't have that many people claiming unemployment benefits, you have people that want to get a job. You have people that are willing to work. For the consumer, that's amazing because if people have money, they can spend. For inflation, technically that's bad, right? Good news is bad news, but that's not really bad because shelter is the majority of inflation. And without shelter, the CPI might be at 1.6% versus 3.3 or 3.1. So again, this is why I'm saying this is just such a good economy. You've got people with jobs and you've got inflation coming down. And so if you're JPOW, you definitely can't raise the rates. You definitely can't cut the rates. And so you're kind of just sitting back and letting the market do its thing. And we're A-okay. It's not that big of a deal. It's such a weird space to be in right now in the broader markets. Google now down 3% of the day. So Google's taking a hit. Palantir recovering a little bit above $25. Tesla trying to fight for that 193 right now at 192. CleanSpark 1872. Look at that. It's trying to make a run. And so, this goes back to my thesis. What I think I talked about this a while ago, which is CleanSpark options, by the way, are up 47% right now. So CleanSpark is doing well. What I talked about a while ago, I think a couple months ago, was that I think we're in an anomaly. I think we printed $7 trillion and everyone's like, and all these analysts are like, hey, we need to have a conventional way of dealing with the $7 trillion that we printed. And I think what's actually happening, just looking at the raw data, is that you printed $7 trillion. That was insane. And you're going to get some weird things that happen. Everyone thought the weird things that would happen, including myself, by the way, I thought the weird things that would happen would be belly up, economy goes to shit, we can't print $7 trillion and things are okay. What has actually happened is that we had the largest level of inflation in 40 years because we printed $7 trillion. And then we had the largest rate cycle increase in 40 years because we printed $7 trillion. And it's kind of like those two negative things followed by almost an 80% decline in most NASDAQ 100 stocks in 2022. You put all three of those things together, maybe there's sunshine at the end of that rainbow, right? Like, I don't know if that metaphor made any sense. but maybe there's actually something good waiting for everybody versus something bad in the context of doing something that was obviously egregious, which is printing $7 trillion. And maybe it's not as scary as people thought because we're finding a way to recover. And I think that's going to end up playing out over the next couple of weeks. And we're going to see how this ends up happening. Here we go. Let's hear from Bank of America and what they have to say, where they think the market's going. Let's get their thoughts. So this is actually JP Morgan.
Talk about the market is Mira Pandit. She's global.
The Fed,
sounds like Jamie Dimon knew this already.
The Fed has been saying since December, 75 basis points worth of rate cuts. We want to see consistent progress on inflation in 2024. So the market shouldn't really be spooked. And I think that coming into the year, pricing a peak of 170 basis points of cuts was very optimistic or perhaps very bearish. But the reality is, I think with inflation, it's going to be 2 steps forward, 1 step back. We're not going to have an even path to 2%. But we can get there. And at some point, we're going to need to see the Fed and the market converge in terms of expectations. Now that that's mostly happened, I think it can be less volatility for the bond market in particular going forward.
How do you think about equities, though, in this world?
On the equity side, we had unusually low volatility last year. So I do think it's going to pick up a little bit more this year back to normal levels. We have to get a little bit accustomed that markets can go down as well. And that is healthy market functioning. And essentially that helps us from an investment standpoint separate which stocks are going to do well over the course of the year and which ones aren't. Last year was very much a year driven by multiple expansion. This year, earnings are going to play a bigger picture, and there are some pretty lofty expectations for earnings growth, but earnings growth should broaden out beyond just the Mag 7
So you
this
think
year.
So you think the multiple game is over for the most part?
Well, look, never want to bet against multiples because we can see that overvalued stocks can stay overvalued and people can continue to get enthusiastic about the markets with these types of profits and this type of economic growth. But at the same time, we should really be focused on earnings. So what do you like and what do you hate right now? So I would say from a market perspective, if we think about earnings this year and what can do well, Last year, you had all of the profit growth come from the Magnificent Seven, up about 30% in terms of profits, while the rest of the index contracted. This year, you're going to get about 40% of your growth from the Mag 7 and 60% from everything else. So I think it's digging into the everything else to think about where some of those profits are going to come from. I think quality is still going to be important in this.
And that everything else it might end up being IWM, right? And that's what we've been talking about for a while, that wow, CleanSpark 19. Oh my. CleanSpark's 1898. Holy crap. IWM, is that breaking out today? Yeah, look at that. That's up almost 2%. What she just talked about in terms of where are you going to get the rest of the growth for 2024, it's what a lot of analysts have been talking about. And it might not be from Google, folks, that already went up 60% last year. Now it's down almost 4% on the day. It might be from small caps. It might be from a Robinhood. It might be from a CleanSpark. It might be from an SMCI, right? That's still technically, I mean, now it's not a small cap, but it was a small cap, right? It might be from some of these companies. CleanSpark breaks 19. Wow. Breaks 19 on the day. Let's go to all the crypto stocks. How's crypto doing? By the way, we have Coinbase earnings today. We got to talk about them. I want to preview them, and we'll talk about them after hours. We'll live stream their call. CleanSpark's up 6%. Wow. Oh my God. Coinbase is basically hitting 52-week highs. I mean, sorry, not basically. I thought it was 177. Their 52-week highs 187, but they're up 7%. They were up 7% yesterday. I did not expect the market to just pump Coinbase while crypto was going up, because I think the market was afraid of their like institutional custodian product and how that's going to have an impact on the revenues. It seems like the market doesn't give a shit. MicroStrategy is above $800. MicroStrategy is above $800, dude. Oh my goodness. This is a stock that was $450 2 weeks ago when it fell from $750. It went to $450 and everyone's like, all right, MicroStrategy's dead. Now it's at $800. Marathon's at 30. Hut 8 Mining's at 5.8% up. Robinhood 1346. Look, here's another thing for Robinhood. If all these crypto stocks are booming, Robinhood should break through 1350, 1360. If freaking Coinbase can go up 7%, if CleanSpark goes up 7%, Robinhood moves with crypto, even if it doesn't literally move with crypto like a CleanSpark, but Robinhood should get there. Robinhood should absolutely get there. Wow. Kaios Perez in the chat says, I'm glad I bought 250 shares of CleanSpark at $8. Not a lot, but better than nothing. Yeah, dude. I mean, $8, you're up more than double right now. You're up more than double. This is incredible. The crypto market is booming. 52,783. Now, here's another thing to think about. If large caps, let's go to Mag 7 list, are not giving you the return, look at that. 5 out of 7 of them are red. The only ones that are green are Tesla, and I think that's because of the Elon Musk kind of maybe 20% ownership thing he had yesterday. That's the only reason I think they're up right now. And Meta, the rest of them are red. Why? Because the market's like, you know what? Maybe there's not enough alpha here. Meta is giving you a dividend. There's at least something there, right? The other guys, I think Google's gonna have to do a dividend or a buyback at astronomical levels if they want to get this stock up. Google's gonna have to do something. And so maybe the market's like, maybe crypto stocks are going to be where we hide out for the next 7 to 8 months if the Max 7 can't really give us what we want, because they gave it to us last year. Rocket Lab, let's go to this one. Rocket Lab up 4%. Kathy Wood's been buying a lot of Rocket Lab, almost basically $5, $4.99 right now. It dipped to what, $3.80 last week on the dilution news. I guess the market doesn't care about the dilution news. And now it's up. Shintoki says we're back in 2021. Okay, let's do a poll on this. Let's do a poll. Let's see what people say. The poll is going to be, is this 2021 or is this different? The famous last words. Is this different? I think, well, I'll give you my answer after. 2021 or different. Let's see what you guys say. I'm very curious what you see. 2021 just means that these are stupid valuations. They don't make sense and it's all going to collapse. Let's see what people say. Let's see what you say. I think Rocket Lab's now above $5. I personally don't think it's 2021. I think there's elements of it that's 2021, but I think these numbers are real. I think these numbers are very, very real, and there's real stuff going on. CleanSpark 1914. It's booming. It's booming, booming, booming. Let's take a look at the options on CleanSpark. Yeah, they're up. They're up. The volatility is tough though, dude, on these Robinhood options and everything else. Like there's a lot of volatility just throughout the entire market. So now the Roth IRA options were up 3,300. I want to take profits, but I don't think this is the time, dude. I think Robinhood's trying to make a run at 14, and that should be where we should be up 7,000 on that. But we got to give it a little bit of time over the next couple of days, I think, to see how that one plays out. Peace, Chash. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Rocket Lab is worth $2.5 billion. SpaceX is raising at $150 billion. Rocket Lab will be a 10-bagger at least one day. Not financial advice. Look, I agree with the sentiment. The problem is space is hard. It's not easy. It's a very difficult world to be in. I get that the TAM is huge, but they've like SpaceX surviving itself is pretty phenomenal. So I don't disagree with the sentiment, but I do think Rocket Lab is tough, and I think space is tough, and it's not the easiest market to win in. Now, granted, if you believe in the execution and they operate, then yeah, there is obviously a massive potential there. But space is not easy, right? It's one of the reasons I've always been hesitant to kind of. It's a very long-term hold, dude. You're waiting for your 10x for a while, in my opinion, unless they really figure this shit out, and that's just a big risk. So we'll see how that plays out. Benny says, admit you should sell your CLSK options and buy the stock when it gets back to around $10. I think we'll see, dude. So my options are for $20, and I'll make around 20 grand if it gets to 20 off of an investment of $5,000. So that'll be a nice 5x. But if the stock's at like $80. And I can exercise the options, right? And, maybe this is worth it. Granted, I don't think that still wouldn't be like, I don't know. We'll see where the stock ends up, because maybe if I get it at $10, that's a better average just on the pure stock. Maybe that's the first time I exercise a contract. But CleanSpark would have to go up a lot, dude, which means Bitcoin would have to be past all-time highs for CleanSpark to get to like $80, $90. So we'll see. But as of now, $20 strikes, stock's almost at $20, right? It's not too bad. It's not too bad. We just got to see how this thing plays out. And look, Bitcoin, some people are arguing, could take a nasty dip before the halving event. Right now it's at 52.8. It is $150 away from trying to hit 53. I think that's possible. But if that doesn't happen and we just blast through, all-time highs and we don't see 38,000 again, like we saw 2 weeks ago, maybe this thing is going to keep playing out. Valero says, I am mixed on this. AI is such a new, huge era that who knows what we'll be able to do in the next few years. But yes, prices are going nuts right now. Well, here's the thing. Here's one thing to think about, guys. Why is Sam Altman raising $7 trillion? Right? Everyone heard the rumor. Why is he doing that? Well, one of the reasons might be because in his estimations, this market is ridiculous in terms of the opportunity, the TAM, the market potential. And $7 trillion to him is like, well, that's just what we need to get the job done, which means if $7 trillion is what he needs to raise money for, he's thinking of multi-trillions in profits. He's thinking of multi-trillion valuations. He's thinking bigger than all of us right now. If we're, getting concerned about Palantir being at a $50 billion valuation, there's going to be losers. There's going to be winners. But if you bet on the winners and this market actually is what Sam Altman thinks it can be, and look, that he's not raising $7 trillion tomorrow, right? Like it might take many years for him to raise that money, but I mean, maybe this is real. Maybe this is not 2021. What did the poll say? 72% of you say it's different. 28% of you say it's 2021. I'm going to end the poll. Okay. So it seems like most people think we're in a different space. He wants $7 trillion to buy out NVIDIA. Could you imagine, dude? What's your average on PayPal? It's like 73. Is PayPal up right now, or is PayPal still shitting the bed and destroying shareholder value? All right, PayPal's up 2%. Let's see. I'll tell you guys how much I'm down on PayPal right now. I am down $5,791 off of how much did I put in this? I put in 5,791 plus 4,320. I put in $10,111, and I am down a whopping 57% on this investment. Yeah, I don't know, dude. I don't know about PayPal anymore. In a market that's ripping, PayPal can barely get $60. It's just at this point, I don't know. And I know they're doing buybacks, but like that shit's not pumping the stock. NVIDIA's down 1.75%. So NVIDIA's taking a breather today. And interesting, NVIDIA's down, but SMCI is running. Well, no, SMCI is down too. SMCI was just at 970. Now it's at 930. Okay, so SMCI is up for the day, but it's still down. People are definitely taking some profits. CleanSpark's falling off a little bit, 1890, S&P 499, Bitcoin 5272. Google 142. Google's getting hit. And then Robin is what? Probably 1330, 1331 on Robinhood. At least you're not in Tesla. Yeah, at least I'm not in Tesla. Even though, dude, I think Tesla's a good buy right now over the next couple of years. It's just a little scary in the short term because, you don't know, right? You just don't know how this whole plays out. And it's going to take some time for Elon Musk to get this ship back on track. And they didn't give guidance for their volumes or their margins. And if they have another shitty earnings call next quarter, it's just, you got to start asking yourself, where do you think this can actually go? All right, so we're seeing that happen. Cisco, by the way, let's go to Cisco. Cisco was down 5% yesterday. They're doing 5% layoffs. I don't think that's going to save them. But Cisco was down. Yeah, they're down 2.45% today. They had a bad earnings. They were growing like 5% year over year, less than 5% year over year or something. It was bad numbers. Let's go to Twilio. Twilio had a really bad earnings. Dude, I looked at Twilio's valuation. So Twilio's down 14%. It was going to go down 14%. Get this. Twilio does $9 billion a year in revenue. Okay? $9 billion. What app am I using? Webull. It's free. I'm not sponsored. At this point, the amount of people that have asked, I should be sponsored. But it's a Webull. It's free, and you can download it. Twilio does $9 billion in revenue. Okay? Market cap is $11 billion. Now, I don't know about you, but there's not a lot of tech companies that are doing $2 billion more in their market cap than their yearly revenue and have that low of a multiple. Like, that doesn't happen with tech companies. Tech companies, if you're doing $9 billion in revenue, you have like $50-60 billion value. Palantir, $2 billion in revenue, $50 billion valuation. Twilio, $9 billion market cap, $11 billion valuation. And then I went into their numbers last night. We did this on the market close. These guys can't make a profit. They're losing close to $1 billion. And so this is the sad part about Twilio, is that, and this is why I was so confused, Cathie Wood dumped in almost, $300-400 million into this thing. It's down 14% because they cannot turn a profit. This is why Robinhood being GAAP profitable and Palantir being GAAP profitable. If you're an investor in Palantir or Robinhood, that is your bragging point. When someone says, oh, but they're barely growing. Robinhood's growing decently, right? Almost 40% year over year. Palantir, 20% is not the best growth. But when someone says, oh, they're not growing, it's like, yeah, but they're freaking profitable, dude. And you know how hard it is for a tech company with all that damn stock-based compensation and all the the caramel lattes they're buying for their employees for free. Like, you know how hard it is for them to get profitable? And Palantir figured it out. That matters, right? And Twilio couldn't figure it out. Now, what is Twilio? They're an API for messaging. So, when you go to Bank of America and they're like, hey, before you log in, you have to type in this code, and then you get a code from your Apple, from your iPhone or whatever. That code is likely being sent by Twilio's API, their application programming interface for SMS messaging. They send trillions of these messages a year. I don't know how that business is so hard to become profitable. Okay. You're a texting app. You text people the code for when they log in to something that they don't want to have a code to log into. Like, do I really need a code to log in to the fucking Dunkin' Donuts app? No, but Dunkin' Donuts wants to protect your two-factor authentication. By the way, Gary Gensler should have learned about 2FA. Maybe they needed some Twilio before the Twitter account got hacked. And Twilio is just sending a little message. How can that company not be profitable? Like, how is it that hard? Palantir is doing the most sophisticated software programming in the world for governments, for Ukraine, for Israel, building shit for BP, one of the largest oil companies in the world. They figured out how to make some, profits. And you're telling me a messaging app can't become profitable? It's insane. These tech companies deserve to be down this much if you can't get profitable, because at that point, you're just wasting shareholder capital. Absolutely wasting shareholder capital. Arnie says, Amit, have you listened that Hood will improve the desktop service? Yeah, this is a big deal because I know a lot of people like Jesse use the desktop when it comes to their trading. And I use the desktop here and there, but I'm more on mobile. But a lot of sophisticated traders are, they need the desktop in order for them to be able to really get value. And they haven't gotten that, right? So if Robinhood can improve that. Oh, by the way, my boy in the UK, my boy Nick, he texted me this last night on Twitter. Look at this. He just got access to Robinhood UK. There you go. Hi, long-term follower here. They've just started testing Hood in the UK. I received my invite today. Thought I'd share the good news. Hopefully this means it will be rolled out nationally in the future. And then he texted me a screenshot of his application. This is what it looks like. I just want to show you guys it right here. And he's said he's looking forward to bringing his money onto Robinhood. The wait is over. You made it. Download Test Flight, which is Apple's testing app. And then boom, he's got Robinhood. So this is going to get rolled out over the next couple of weeks. And that means their Q1 numbers are going to have a shit ton of more monthly active users and a lot more deposits. People in the UK bringing over their assets. They had $4 billion back in January in deposits alone, which is insane. And so we're going to see some more momentum. Enphase is up 4% right now. Dude, I guess I was wrong on Enphase. I guess the market 137, dude. Holy crap. I don't believe it, dude. I cannot believe the market's really willing to give NFIS that premium. I did not think the market was gonna be that excited for these guys. Interest rates have not come down. See, this is what makes me feel like it's a little weird because interest rates have not come down. NFIS is up almost 25% in the past week since earnings. Their guidance was absolutely horrible. They're not changing anytime soon. Interest rates, if they don't come down by summer, the effect on consumers won't happen until the fall. And even if they do, 25 basis points, you're more likely to finance solar at 6.5 versus 7. Like, really? I don't understand why the market is so excited about this. I really don't. Maybe the valuation is getting stupid, but the valuation is not getting as stupid if you look at their revenue now. Maybe it was stupid if they were putting up 800 million. Now they're putting up 300 million. So I don't know. That one's weird. That one's very weird. I wouldn't short Enphase, but I would be skeptical of if you're trying to establish a position to get an entry price here right now. This is not exciting. I mean, this is weird, dude. Benny says he sold all of his Enphase at 132. It's stupidly overvalued. Yeah. And again, it's not overvalued on conventional metrics. It's overvalued because they are guiding for horrendous growth because interest rates are high. People don't want to finance solar. It's not that complicated. But the market's still saying, well, it's okay. We'll buy your stock. And it's like, I don't know, dude. I don't know why the market's saying that. Apple down 1%. Google down 2.77. Robinhood 1338. Palantir 2516. Look at Palantir. Look at that. It's fighting like a champ. Fell below 24 2 times, got right back up on its feet. It's like in a boxing match with this $25 price, and it just comes right back. Clean Spark back at 19, SMCI 941, S&P 499, Bitcoin 52.6. Uber as well. Shout out to anyone who had Uber, 11% yesterday. Vitaly, we had a good conversation on Finance Junkies last night. Him and Chris think it's going to $1 trillion. They made a compelling case, dude. They made a compelling case for the market cap to get to that, trillion. It's at 162. Now, I got to go deeper into their financials. I would not buy Uber at 162 billion personally. I really got to get a deeper dive. The moat of their network, I understand, but to say that everyone's just always going to use Uber and that's why you should buy them right now, it's not a horrible argument. But at 162 billion, I think you could probably get a better entry price. Maybe I'm wrong on that. So I want to look through their financials. But Lyft is not going to beat up Uber, even though they're up, right? I know they had a good earnings, but they're not taking down Uber. They're up 8% today again. And across the world, Uber is a global company, and it just doesn't seem like they're necessarily going to slow down. The bull case on Uber is end-to-end shipping and freights and logistics. That part of the business hasn't really evolved as much as it could yet. And if that does evolve, I think that's where you get to the $1 trillion versus, just the consumer car renting business itself. Rango says, bro, they are under shipping. They are clearing out their inventory. Revenue steady state is 500 million, 450 to 500 million. Yeah, but that's still down from 850, dude. I don't know, Rango. I mean, look, I hope you're right, but I don't think 25% is that justified from that guidance. I don't know. I don't think so. But we'll see, dude. If we have a bad correction, Enphase is falling fast. If we keep the momentum, I guess Enphase will keep it as well. But I don't know, dude. It was 93 on February 9th. Do you think it deserves to be 140 on February 15th? Really? Like, that was not a Robinhood or Palantir type of earnings, dude. That was a hey, we're gonna be okay. You just got to give us time, which is fine. But does that deserve to be? I don't know. 25 times free cash flow. I'm not saying it's cheap. I'm not saying it's super expensive. I'm just saying I feel like the market is very exuberant right now for demand that's not going to come back necessarily even this year, right? Unless the Fed really gets aggressive with cutting. But we'll see. Look, at the end of the day, I'm happy for you. It's 130. I don't have a position, but it's up. I'm definitely not shorting it. So we got 136 right now. That means Meet Kevin's PP should be up as well, right? Yeah, look at that. If Enphase, I forgot about Meet Kevin's PP. If Enphase is up 25% or whatever, Meet Kevin's ETF should be doing well. Meet Kevin has a crap ton of NVIDIA. Did he update his holdings? Let me see. Meet Kevin ETF. Let's see if it's updated at all. Last time we checked it was like a couple months ago. Let's see. Let's see if he updated. No, we don't have the updated yet. We have only Q3 in we have July 2023. We know he has PayPal. We know he has what is it? NVIDIA, ASML, Tesla, Enphase. Those were the big ones for him. These are the top holdings right now. So this is what I have. I don't know if this is updated daily, but this is the top holdings we have right now. Do you know if Robinhood UK will have options? I think so. I can't confirm, but I would imagine they have some type of options, even if it's not all of the levels. Now, if the UK government wants to be a totalitarian regime and stop them from doing any type of business, then probably not. But I think they have some options. Tesla, he has 38,000 shares, 44,000 shares of Enphase. This is why Enphase going up really helps his PP. NVIDIA, 7,000. If he had switched NVIDIA with Enphase in terms of the amount of shares, Meet Kevin's PP would be at like, it would be almost $50, right? You would imagine it would go crazy. AMD, 18,000 shares. ASML, 3,000 shares. Taiwan Semi, 20,000. Palantir has 81,000 shares. I think his average is $18 there. Intel, 54. Wow, he has 54,000 shares of Intel. I think he picked those up when they were like $23. So those are actually probably a good buy. And Ubiquity, he has 15,000 shares. Apple, he has 10,000 shares. So Apple, Tesla, and Enphase are the laggers. And then NVIDIA, Intel, and AMD, ASML, Taiwan Semis, based on his averages, which I think he has good averages, are the ones that are doing well. So that's what we're seeing right now for his ETF. Let's look at Gerber Kawasaki, who basically sold out of all of his Tesla. That's GK. This thing went public at like $21 in 2021. It's at $19. Yeah, dude, this one didn't perform. He literally IPO'd his ETF or whatever. I know that's not the right way to say it, but whatever. At the top of the market, July 2021. And Ross Gerber has not been able to perform, dude. He's just not been able to perform. I think he has NVIDIA, and he has NVIDIA here. If you have NVIDIA and you're not been able to perform, that's been tough, dude. He has MGM. Yeah, I think he's got rid of a lot of his Tesla. He doesn't have Palantir. If he had some Palantir, maybe he would have been doing better. But that ETF has not done well. He has like the win from Las Vegas or whatever, which is fine, but I don't know, dude. It's not necessarily the best performing one that we see. Okay, cool. So Robinhood 1330, PayPal 5960, Rocket Lab 494. Where's Palantir? Palantir's at what? 2502. We're in a boxing match with 25. We're not giving up on 25. CleanSpark 1860. So market taking a little bit of a breather right now. It's not ripping as it was about 30 minutes ago. But Palantir right now at $25.04. Tesla is up though. Tesla's doing great. Tesla's doing its thing. Tesla right here at 194. Wow. Imagine Tesla gets back to 200. Imagine that means that 179 dip was the dip. That was the dip. It's like that was the opportunity for Tesla if we get there. Now, granted, they're going to have another earnings report and we'll see how that one goes. But so far, that's okay. Shake Shack is public. I didn't even know that. They're up 20%. Why is Shake Shack up 20%? Shake Shack. I love their burgers, by the way. It's amazing. Damn, I just got a craving for Shake Shack, dude. I haven't had this thing in it's been like 8 months or something. Shake Shack news. What's going on with them? Oh, they beat on their earnings. They had earnings. Okay. So they're saying, okay, so here's the numbers. Let's go to Shake Shack numbers. Let's go to Shake Shack. Shaking the stack is shaking the stock. Total revenue increased by 20% to $1 billion. That's great. Net income, $20.5 million. They actually made a profit. That's not too bad. Operating profit, $208 million. Sales, 4.4% up to full year 2022. They opened 41 new shacks, which is great. Adjusted EBITDA, $131.8 million. And it seems like guidance, they're pointing to very strong demand. This is great for the consumer. It means that we're buying. Shake Shack is a bit overpriced. I'm not going to lie. They're like compared to Chick-fil-A, they're up there, but you're getting a premium burger. You're not getting like a McDonald's. You're getting like a really nice, piece of meat here. So there you go. Shake Shack is up 20%. I think this is another kind of Peter Lynch play, similar to Cheesecake, similar to Celsius. Like if you believe in this company and you believe in their mission of delivering shakes across stacks in the world, then that's why you buy Shake Shack more than anything. You said check out AM. What is it? ANF. What is ANF? Abercrombie. They're up 0.56% on the day. Are they? What is their chart? Abercrombie. Holy crap, dude. Abercrombie was $21 in May. Why is Abercrombie up 5x, 6x? They have a market cap of $6 billion. You guys know the store, right? This is the store that like people shop at and buy $50 t-shirts because they think they look cool or whatever. Dude, what? Why is this? Why is this up? They were at $81 in 2008. Then they collapsed in the recession. They got to 15. Then they went back up to $80 in 2011. Then it was bad for basically 7 years. They bottomed at $8 during 2019. They got to 30. Then COVID hit them. They went to 7. Then from 7, they got to 21 during the bubble in 46. Then they went, this is insane, dude. How do you go from 7 to 46 in the bubble, 2021? You collapse back down to 15. And then this happens. Like, are you guys seeing this chart? Their volume, dude, they only have 210,000 shares trading. Who's buying Abercrombie? They had $4 million inflow today, $3 million outflow on their order distribution. Who's buying Abercrombie? I got to pull up their numbers, dude. I got to pull up their numbers. Abercrombie IR. Abercrombie. We got to see these numbers, dude. Their numbers have to be insanity for this to be. I'm just going to look at their Q3 results real quick. Who's buying this shit, dude? Like, this is something we should have found out as a community in May, and we should have bought some fucking options on this shit, dude. I want to know when a stock goes up 6x. Like, was there something we all missed? We were just ignorant. We were just worried about NVIDIA and SMCI. We weren't looking at, and we didn't even invest in SMCI. Like, we were looking at fucking Google. Like, we should have been looking at Abercrombie and Fitch. Okay, net sales, they did about $2.8 billion last quarter. Or sorry, no, 1.8 billion. No, 2.8 billion for 30 weeks. So that's 1.8 billion for the quarter. Okay, 2.8 billion for 3 months, for 13 weeks. Operating income 5.6 billion. Dude, they're not even profitable. They're not even fucking. How is this happening? They're not profitable. What the fuck? They're not profitable, dude. Holy crap. They had to have said something that changed their strategy, as Rango's saying. Yeah, they had to have said something. Their operating income is up. That is correct. Operating income is exploding. I'll give you that. That's going up very nicely. That's actually incredible. Wow. Okay, so operating income is incredible. So they did 17 billion in operating income in 2022. They did 138. Oh, this is million. Sorry, not billion. 17 million. They did 138 million October 28th, 2023. That is huge. That is what? That's a basically a 8x increase in your operating income. Now they're still not profitable. They still took a loss of about 700 or 70 million. Let me look at their short float. Short float ANF. They are focusing on women's clothes now. I mean, well, that's not a horrible strategy. If you go after Victoria's Secret, that market is huge. That market is, I mean, like, if you go after women's anything, that's big. Okay, so let's ask Gemini. Let's see if fucking Google's useful for anything. What is the short float of ANF stock? If that short float is above 20% and that operating income is exploding, 12%. There's 6 million shares that are short off of about 120 million. So it's a low float. 12% is not crazy, but it's definitely not a little bit. Dude, this is the stuff I want to catch, man. This is the stuff. This is why. This is just the research, dude. Anyone who's up on this just knew something about their operating income. Because again, when that goes up 8x, I mean, look, think about this. If fucking Lyft went up 60% on their adjusted EBITDA margins, which Charlie Munger thinks adjusted EBITDA is bullshit, but their adjusted EBITDA margins were up 10x, and Lyft went up 60%. Operating income, which is not necessarily adjusted EBITDA, but it's kind of in that world of, like, internal metrics of a business that ultimately will impact the bottom line, is up 8x from 17 million to 138 million. Someone was looking at that shit in the summer and they bought up Abercrombie, and now they're sitting on a 4x. I don't think it's Wall Street bets, dude. I don't think it's Wall Street bets. That would be weird. I think someone actually, I mean, I actually look at Wall Street bets every other day. No one talks about Abercrombie and Fitch. I think this is more so just some smart people said, hey, we're going to buy the stock. Just like SMCI, dude. When Chris introduced this at $70, they had a forward PE of 4, and they were growing 70% year over year. It didn't make any sense. By the way, let me show you guys this picture that Chris posted today. If Chris had held on to his SMCI, everyone's going to love this because everyone calls Chris a trader. And, you tell Chris that he should hold, and he's like, nope, fuck it, I'm not going to hold. But today he said if he had held, he would have had $1 million. I think he made $100,000 of SMCI. How much did he make on this? Yeah, I think he made 100 grand. I might be wrong on this, but he had 1,000 shares. If he had held on to those 1,000 shares, he would have had $1 million. Yeah, he made 100 grand. So he would have 10x. He would have made $1 million. So, Chris catches a lot of things, but the one thing we know about Chris, and this, we all love Chris, but he's not in this for 10 years. He's in it for 2-3 years and then he leaves. That's it. He doesn't care. SMCI, if he had just held, dude, Chris would be sitting on $1 million in a year on that. That'd be wild, dude. And probably even more because maybe SMCI just keeps going. 100 grand is great. You can't regret making. Yeah, someone asked him, "Are you going to change your style?" And by this point, I've talked to Chris enough about. I know his style. He does not like short-term volatility. He will sell and get the fuck out, even if he takes a loss, because he doesn't want to wait for the market to kind of make it like Disney. He sold Disney at 70. Disney's recovered to 110. I think he took like a $30,000 loss or whatever. He did not have the patience to wait from Disney to recover from 79 to 110 because he wasn't confident anymore about the business. So with SMCI, if he was up like 500,000, he would have sold way before that because at the end of the day, it's a hardware business. He's afraid of their growth. He's afraid of their demand, and you're up 100 grand. Take the money, right? So I don't think his style is necessarily changing. This is not really a learning experience. It's just one of those things to look back on. Like, sometimes you got to hold, but when you hold, it's scary to hold because what if it doesn't go that way? What if it doesn't? But nonetheless, it just goes to show you how insane the market is. SMCI right now at $949. Palantir still at 25. Enphase 136. Twilio down 13%. Cisco down 1.3%. Robinhood, at least it's above 13. That's all I'm happy about. Now, hopefully we can make the next leg up to 14, and maybe when Bitcoin gets to that 55K range, that'll happen. But Robinhood at 1330, holding tight right there. SMCI 948 right now on the day. Mr. Seymour Duck says, not sure why people are getting upset for taking profits. Yeah, I mean, look, no one should get upset about it. It's crazy to think, right? If you held, it would get up there. But granted, if you're up 100 grand on a stock, you're already up, 2x. I mean, dude, I would take the money. If I saw 100 grand right now, if Robinhood said you're up 100 grand right now on your options, I would not wait to be up more. I would take the money. I'm taking the money. So I don't know. It's one of those things where sometimes you got to just take your profits. Sometimes you got to take your profits. How many Bitcoins do you have? None. I have no whole Bitcoins. I have a little bit of Bitcoin, but not one Bitcoin. If I had the money to buy one Bitcoin and push it up just like I do for Palantir, I would do that shit every day. But I don't have that. That was you said Chris selling was an FU to Disney. Yeah, it was, but it also was like, hey, I'm losing confidence in a lot of the parts of the business, right? We did a whole episode on it. So again, when Chris feels that, he sold some Amazon calls the other day, again, he's still bullish on Amazon, but when he feels instability in the market or uncomfortability, he's getting the hell out. He doesn't care. And that's one of the things I've learned from him as well in the context of just look, when you feel something, like with Google, I felt something. I just didn't feel comfortable. And so now this one worked for me. Many times it'll probably go against me in the future, but sometimes you got to just leave because I do not want to be holding a bag on Google hoping that they figure their shit out when the entire market thinks that their monopoly in search is under pressure, which it is under pressure, dude. It is. Even if the numbers aren't showing it perceptually, Perplexity, OpenAI, Bing, there's so many things that are putting this thing under pressure. At the end of the day, a lot of people might just not end up using Google one day, and that's going to change a lot of things. It's going to change a lot of things about their business. Next miner play, Wolf. I've heard of Wolf. Where's Wolf right now? Wolf is up 5%. Wolf didn't run as much as all the other miners ran, right? I'm more of a guy that likes to bark, but I know that Wolf definitely ran up a little bit. Year to date, it's down 11%. Over the past 3 months, it's up 165%. So it is down year to date, but in 2023, it was at the bottom, was at about 98 cents. So this is another Bitcoin miner. I don't know anything about this company, so I'll take a look into it, Rango. But if you're saying there's some alpha here, we'll take a look at it and we'll see what's there. Market cap is what? 600 million. See, the thing I love about CleanSpark is they're so transparent about how they're navigating the Bitcoin mining space. I've got to really feel confident about Wolf and their management. I want to look at what they're saying to see if there's something there. Amit thinks he's successfully day trading. Oh my gosh. Wolf, no good. Okay, so Broccoli says it's no good. Cypher's better. Today's update made a huge difference. Okay. They paid off their debt. The problem was their debt. Okay, so I'll take a look at a little Wolfie Wolf. We'll take a look at Wolfie Wolf. Did you guys get the bark joke? No one made a comment about that. No one laughed. The bark joke. You didn't get that when I was barking. The bark, dog, wolf. It went over your head. Really? Is it that intellectual? Chris's Twitter. I just put it in the chat. Chris's Twitter is in the chat. Greg says, "What is Google's competition?" Google's competition is an increasing consumer that is becoming more capable of finding information without having to click on advertisements in order to get those in order to get access to information. That is the problem with Google. And look, it's a big deal, dude. Like, as bullish as I am on YouTube and Google and all that stuff, and by the way, we can talk about YouTube. I don't think YouTube makes that much money for Google, quite frankly. I really don't. When you look at the numbers, I think it's maybe $1 billion or $2 billion, which is really nothing in regards to their net income quarter over quarter. They spend a lot more maintaining YouTube than they do making money off of it. And because YouTube's an engine for their search, so I think that's why they use it like that. But at the end of the day, if people are using other things than Google to search, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to be like, well, wait a second. If I'm using ChatGPT or Perplexity or NVIDIA's new version of GPT or their chat AI software, like, why the fuck am I going to Google to try to find answers for stuff? At the end of the day, it's an encyclopedia of answers that has successfully crawled the entire internet, which is why they get 88 billion web visitors a day. At some level, if people just get smart enough to use other pieces of information, they're not going to use Google anymore. And so that is not a threat in the short term, but in the long term, you bet your ass it's an existential threat to the business, because 95% of their revenue and their profits is search. They did $86 billion of revenue last quarter, and almost 70 billion of that was search. 9 billion was cloud, and then you got some of the other investments, and then you got YouTube, right? But like, most of it is freaking search. And I don't know if search going to continue to keep going up. Yeah, Wayne says, yeah, but imagine the money they would make if the chatbots people are using running the machine learning modes on Google's GCP servers. Correct. GCP is great, but it's not growing as fast as Azure. It's growing a little faster than AWS, but AWS is just, another monster. They did $9 billion in cloud. They did $1 billion in profits, 864 million. It's just not growing at that huge level, like Azure, which is 30% year over year. Now, granted, that could become a huge business, but the question is, when does that outpace the search business? And does Google have the innovative capabilities to do this? Look, here's how Google gets to 175 this year. They got to cut 15,000 employees, and they got to issue a dividend. That's it. It could be a 20-cent dividend, but you got to give people another reason to get back in, especially when you don't have any other type of revenue outside of search, and you got to cut 15,000 people. There's no reason you need 200,000 people running Google, dude. It's a search engine. It's a freaking search engine. Like it cannot be that complicated. And all the people working on other stuff, those bets aren't like, you're not building self-driving cars. You're not going to space, right? You're not really doing anything that's that innovative. So why do you need all those people? There are probably a ton of product managers doing nothing at Google today right now. They're probably watching this live stream. Hi. I'm glad you're enjoying my live stream, but you're probably not doing much right now. Like, come on, dude, we got to be honest. And like, that's not to throw shade at any of these people. These are a lot of tech companies where there's a lot of product managers that are getting $200,000-$300,000 a year. They're working like 7 hours a week. They'll tell you this themselves. Type in day in the life product manager on YouTube. You'll see all this shit. Like, and Zucks realized this, and he cut employees. He realized a lot of people weren't doing shit. Maybe that's happening at Google, dude. Maybe that's happening at Google right now. This is the movement for Google to innovate or get left behind or not. They have a smooth ride for years. They've had a smooth ride for years. Yeah, I agree. I mean, here's one thing I showed yesterday on the market close. I think Peter Thiel kind of called this really well. And by the way, I'm saying all of this assuming Google is going to do very well over the next, over the next couple of years. I don't think the stock's going to be stuck at 140. I just personally, at this point, as I'm developing cash and trying to, get ready for a dip, I don't feel comfortable holding Google. Like, I'll bag hold on a bunch of stuff. I'm not going to bag hold on Google. Here's what Peter Thiel said about Google in 2012.
Specific and the general. Google is a great company. It has 30,000 people. They have, or 20,000, whatever the numbers. They have pretty safe jobs. On the other hand, Google also has 30, 40, 50 billion in cash. It has no idea how to invest that money in technology effectively. And so it prefers getting 0% interest from Mr. Bernanke. Effectively, the cash sort of gets burned away over time through inflation because there are no ideas that Google has how to spend the money. So you have $50 billion at Google. Why don't you spend it on doing more in tech? or are you out of ideas? And it's not, and I think Google does more than most companies. You're trying to do things with self-driving cars and supposedly with asteroid mining, although maybe that's just part of the propaganda ministry. And and you're doing more than Microsoft or Apple or a lot of these other companies. And the fact that you're out of ideas, maybe it's a political problem. The government's outlawed things, but it still is a problem.
Dude, this is why I love Peter Thiel. He doesn't care, dude. He doesn't care. Peter Thiel will say shit in public. There were probably like 1,000 people in that room, right? He said, or it's propaganda. Like he's basically saying Google's like, he's basically implying they're this evil company. That's like, and he just says it and he laughs about it and he moves on to his next sentence. That's the type of fucking guy that I want to put my money behind, dude. It's like not being afraid to say something. This is where if you've studied, I started this series Palantir in philosophy, and I only did one episode on it, so I've definitely failed at continuing that series. But I talked about Albert Camus and absurdism in regards to Palantir. The next episode I do, when I eventually get time to do it, is Ayn Rand and self-rationalism and that philosophy. Peter Thiel is a very big proponent of that stuff, and part of being a self-rationally free-thinking individual is saying something that might be risky to say, but you don't give a fuck because you're an independent thinker at the end of the day. I mean, these are the ideals that Peter Thiel kind of lives up to. It's kind of like what I try to do on this live stream when I make these jokes, right, about wolf and barking and no one laughs. Like no one's going to laugh. It's okay, but you got to take the risk to put out the joke, right? You got to get it out there. So, and he told Google, he told them to his face, Eric Schmidt, the CEO back in 2012, he said, guys, you have 30,000 people. You're not doing anything. You know what Palantir was doing in 2012? They were developing the most sophisticated platforms for the government, for the military, not for commercial. In about 2017, they started going to commercial, but in 2012 to 2003 to 2016, they basically developed all this shit for the government and the military. And then they said, oh, how do we make this for the commercial sector? Like that's the type of innovation that was happening at Palantir. Whereas at Google, they were like, how can we get you to click on this ad versus this ad? And advertising is not a bad business. It's a great business. It's great. It's just, this is Alex Karp's point that Silicon Valley tech companies have created these thin half-lives where they're so obsessed with commoditizing attention. And that is the sort of supremacy that they want to export in terms of their philosophical values across the West, when in reality, it's all bullshit. And you're trying to go to the metaverse when we've got real problems on planet Earth. And Peter Thiel told him that, and Google didn't really do anything. Atlas shrugged anyway. Yeah, that's very, very, it's one of those philosophies that Peter Thiel has really, really embraced. Dude, Google built the logic that LLMs were built on in 2017. Yeah, that's also the sad part. Like, that's also, and Palantir was playing with LLMs a while ago, but they never found the commercial use case for it. And as soon as the commercial use case for LLMs became real, Palantir dropped AIP like 2 months after, and then hosted 2 conferences on it. Whereas Google had the technology, Palantir right now $24.93, and they never developed it because they were afraid of destroying their search business. As Arnie says in the chat, Google also sold their stake in Robinhood. It's like, they sold their stake in a bunch of other companies that were innovating. It's just interesting to see how Google has not really innovated, and how the market is now not rewarding them for that. Now, Bill Ackman came out with his report yesterday, his 13F filings. And as of the past 45 days, he has not sold or bought Google. So he still has 4 million shares of Google. Okay. Here you go. He reduced his stake in Chipotle by 14%, 13.49, reduced his stake in Hilton, the hotel, by 10.9%. He added 12.17% to Howard Hughes Holdings. I have no idea what that is. Howard Hughes Holdings. The hell is this? Oh, this is a real estate company. Okay. I think it's a REIT, if I'm not wrong. Maybe it's not a REIT, but it's a real estate company. Okay. And then he reduced his stake in Lowe's by 82%. And then Google, 1.3 billion, 9 million shares, did not add, did not sell so far. So that's what you got from Bill Ackman on his 13F. Tesla's up 3.5%. Wow. The market's excited about Tesla, dude. The market's excited about Tesla today. I don't know if they have a big reason to be excited other than Elon maybe having a 20% ownership stake. Look at that, 195 on Tesla. 179 might have been the dip, folks. That might have been the dip. That might have been the dip. Chipotle. Yeah, it's Chipotle. What, you guys don't say Chipotle? Do you guys actually say it? like the propagandists say it? Do you guys actually say Chipotle? You guys know that's pure propaganda, right? It's Chipotle. It's the vocabulary police, the vernacular police that try to judge how we say words. They've brainwashed us into thinking it's Chipotle. If you want to be an independent and free thinker, it's Chipotle. Okay? It's not Chipotle. But you can keep living your brainwashed life if you want to keep calling it Chipotle, but it's Chipotle. It's Chipotle. Okay. Word of the day. Word of the day. Oh, John, good question. Amit, what happened to the big announcement about the program you were working on? Did I miss the announcement? No, I am coming out with a product. I haven't talked about it in a couple of weeks. We're still working on it. Maybe end of February launch, maybe early March launch. It's going to be a really exciting product. I think a lot of you guys are going to like it. This is a SaaS company that I'm starting. I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. It is a paid product. It's going to cost $42.69 to access it per year. That is, I'm telling you guys right now, it will be a yearly subscription, not a monthly subscription. You pay $42.69. We have to do that as the subscription price. And I think for 2 shares of Palantir per year, I think a lot of people will subscribe to this. Now, I could be wrong. We'll see what happens. But it's for Palantir investors. It's not a news app. It's not an app that's like you get to scroll through pictures of carp, even though that's not a horrible idea. But I've been working on a product in the Palantir space for the past 5 months now. I gave it to a bunch of beta testers. What is it, like a month ago? I got a lot of early feedback on it, and I gave it to 200 people. 200 people reached out. If you still want a beta test, I would love to have you test it out. I haven't mentioned it, but I'll put my Twitter in the chat. If you want a beta test, DM me, and I'll send you the beta. And I think you're going to have a lot of fun with it if you're a Palantir investor. I think you'll have a lot of fun with it. And let me know, and I'll send you the beta. And we're working on it. I'm still working with my dev. We're trying to get it figured out. But it's gonna be really cheap, dude. It's gonna be $40 per year. I think of it in 2 ways, and I'm gonna do an entire presentation once I launch it. I think you guys will enjoy it. It'll be like a fun announcement. It's gonna be something with you. If you're a Palantir investor, I think you would be willing to pay those $40 per year because the amount of assistance it will give you in terms of understanding your investment and keeping up with your investment in Palantir. If you're not invested in Palantir, it probably doesn't matter. If you have any meaningful stake in Palantir, I think $40 a year, people are going to sign up in like 2 seconds. That is my hypothesis. Now, maybe I'm wrong. This is the risk of taking something to market. When you go to market, maybe the market likes it, maybe the market doesn't. Maybe people think it's crap. But I think in the early beta testing, this is something people are going to use. I have the sickest domain name, dude. I had to pay $200 for the domain. It's a .ai. Okay, I was buying the domain name the other day on GoDaddy. And they were, it was like $200. I'm like, yo, I usually pay $12 for domain names. Why the fuck is this $200? And then I went into their like information. They're like .ai names are more exclusive. I was like, really? You're going to make me pay like fucking 20x more for this domain because of the .ai? But nonetheless, it's a fun .ai. I think you guys will like it, and it'll be fun. It'll be super, super cool, dude. And honestly, dude, I want to make it so cheap. I was like, dude, for $40 a year, like, this is not $40 a month. This is not hundreds of dollars, not thousands of dollars. This is $3 a month. Like, this is something where the value should supersede the cost. And that's the biggest thing. You guys know my old startup, Audia, ended up failing, didn't end up working. We returned 50% of the capital to investors. I raised $330,000, didn't end up finding product market fit. And the main reason we didn't find product market fit is because the product was not something that people would use in their lives, forget daily, but even weekly. And that's a hard thing to realize as an entrepreneur. It's like when you build something and you have this grand vision and then people don't want to use it, that's a really tough thing to deal with, right? And so this market open, I think, is having product market fit. Why? Because people want to come back every single day. The YouTube channel is finding some product market fit because people want to consume the videos every day. There's some information they want. The biggest thing in launching this next SaaS product, and I had to launch another product after my first startup failed because I don't fucking sit down that easily. I'm just like buzzing with ideas. As soon as that shit failed, I was like, all right, we're on to the next one. And we're going to learn from those mistakes and we're going to make this one better. The key thesis on this is 2 things. Number 1, will people use it at least every month? If not every week, if not daily. I think power users will use it daily. Decent users will definitely go on every week. And then if you buy a subscription for the year, you're going to check it every month, at least once a month. I think that is guaranteed. Number 2, is the value of the product so advanced that people look at $40 and they think like Canva. I pay $13 a month for Canva. There is no way Canva could charge me $30 a month. I would pay because I use Canva every day, 10 times a day, right? That's how I make my thumbnails, my Twitter, all that stuff. That's what it needs to be like, I think, for a SaaS business to work. And then do the unit economics make sense? And I spent a lot of time working on the unit economics, the cost, all that stuff. I was like, I think I can squeeze out a good 70% margin on this $40 if we do it right. So that's what it's going to be. And that's why I think it'll be fun, and it'll be something pretty cool. The other thing about it is the marketing. The marketing on this shit is going to be so fun. Like the Canva's free, yeah, but if you want to download certain types, Canva's free. That's the other thing. But like, there's to get access to their AI generated, all that stuff that you have to pay. So it's like $12 a month is nothing, right? So I just pay for it. But the marketing around this is I'm also excited about, because I think we're going to crush the marketing, dude. The marketing is so fun. The marketing is so hyper focused. The problem with Audio when it came to marketing is like the world was your audience, and like it's very hard to market to the world. And like that's the first mistake I made. It's like unless you have a niche audience, like targeting 10,000 people is way better than targeting 10 million people. Yeah, your TAM may be bigger, but the quality of the people you're targeting to get them to even convert is so limited, right? So Netflix is like 25 at this point. Yeah, Netflix can keep charging us whatever. So to me, in a nutshell, I think that the value will supersede the cost. I think if you are a Palantir investor, you will want to use this probably every week. And I think that the marketing will be so fun that you will want to be enticed to use this product. And in terms of the TAM, I think there's about 20 million people globally that care about Palantir. I think there's about 1 to 3 million of those 20 million people that are actually on YouTube and Twitter, which is where we're going to be doing our marketing. And I think out of those 1 to 3 million people, a reasonable 10 to 20,000 I might have access through via my distribution, which means if we can convert 1 or 2% off those people at $40 a year, we get 2,000 people. That's $100,000 a year subscription business. That's not bad, dude. That's not bad. I think that's a reasonable business. And YouTube barely pays, guys. I mean, YouTube, maybe I get $2,500 a month. It's not sustainable for a 26-year-old guy. like I'm making more in the stock market than I'm making on YouTube. YouTube just doesn't pay. Like unless you're putting up Meet Kevin views, you're not making a lot of money. Or Jeremy views, you're not making. And look, I am very happy with my YouTube channel because I'm getting views from people that care about me, that I'm building a community around, and that actually give a shit about my content. Like people care about the Palantir content. I'm making the Palantir content. That's why people come back to the channel. It's a very symbiotic relationship. The channel makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of product market fit. And as Palantir grows, which I think it will, I think the channel will grow. And I think that's the long-term trajectory. But in the short term, there's no money from that, dude, because it's just not enough views for like monetization. So this is one of the ways that hopefully we'll actually be able to monetize in a meaningful way, but in a way that's not scummy. We're not charging for some stupid course and like, tell you how to 10x your investment on some, it's a real tech product that I think people will use. And I think for $40 a year, people would want to pay for it. So that's it. We'll see it. Joe says, how do you live? Number one, I live with my parents. So a lot of my costs are limited in terms of rent. I pay for everything except rent. Number two, I make some money in the stock market, dude. I made 7,000 this month in the stock market. Sorry, in January, February together. About 7,500. Yeah. Like I'm starting to make some money in the markets. And then on top of that, I had savings from 2 years ago that I've just grown those savings over time. Right. So it's not like I'm struggling to pay bills or anything, right? I have the money. I can pay bills. I can do all that stuff. I can meet my debt obligations, my car payment, my student loans, all that stuff. But it's not like, it's not like YouTube's paying the bills. That's for sure. It's, YouTube's like a little bit of supplemental income. I'm doing YouTube for the audience. I'm playing the long game. That's why when you guys send super chats, I love them, but I'm also like, guys, don't send this money because I don't want your $50 super chat. I'm happy your attention is here on the stream. That's all I care about. And I think long-term, that's how we're going to build a successful channel. So many channels come and go because motherfuckers take the short way out. They try to monetize. They try to sell you a course, for and maybe make a couple thousand. Like, dude, that's not the way to. Now, Meet Kevin can sell a course to millions of people because he has millions of people that are watching. And I still don't like the course business, but he'll get a big conversion. But if you have a couple thousand subscribers, dude, why are you selling them a course, right? Like, why are you trying to it's just, and the course has to be so valuable. It's just very difficult to monetize an audience because ad revenue is shit. So then what do you offer your audience that they're willing to pay? Patreon, $5 a month. What value are they getting? Why would people pay $5 a month to your stupid Patreon? Like, what are you giving them, right? So I really thought about this a couple months ago and I was like, what if I build a product that my audience would actually pay for because they want to pay for it and it's something they would use? And I think it's something you're going to use. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but I think this is something a lot of people are going to use. So it'll be fun. It'll be exciting and hopefully you guys will enjoy. How much percentage of the money will go to you with the SaaS instead of the major / with YouTube? Like Stripe will take 2% of it. Yeah, it's like 98% of this will go to me. Now there are costs to running this. Don't get me wrong. It's a tech company, right? So that we do have costs. There are fixed costs, some variable costs, but those costs can go up or down. But I think we can get 70% margin on the $40. So, maybe like off the $3 a month, I think I can clear $2.50. So to me, the way I think about it is I'm asking people who care about Palantir for $2.50 a month, which is 1/10 of a share, for hopefully such insane value that it is just a no-brainer to subscribe, even if you use it every couple months. The fact that you have the account and you have access to the product, because again, we have to charge for this because there's cost to run it. So like literally there has to be some subscription cost, but I think it's just so cheap. I think that people will check it out. Joseph Carlson does this. Yes, Qualstrom. Yeah, Joseph Carlson basically has a subscription product that allows you to track stocks. It's a stock screener. A lot of people said, stock screener, try to build like some type of stock product. And to me, guys, I hate stock screeners so much because the best stock screeners in the world are already made, in my opinion. Gemini and Copilot on Bing are great at screening stocks. Like to me, to charge $20 a month to just like, move some tickers around and see some charts. There's so many of those out there. I think that market is so saturated. I'm just not excited about that. The thing that I'm building is very specific to Palantir. It only works for a company like Palantir because the audience interest is so high. And obviously that's how we built the YouTube channel. And there are so many things you can do with this thing daily, like literally thousands of things you can do with this. And I'm not exaggerating here. You guys are going to see how you can use this, that I think it's worth, the subscription there. So it'll be there. Kevin Smith says, I will do it just to support you. Yeah. So I know a lot of people will probably subscribe just to support. That's what the feedback I got. A lot of people were like, yo, I might use this thing, but I'm probably just going to buy it to support you. And I get it. There's two thoughts I have on this. Number one, I would rather you buy this to support me versus give me a super chat, because that makes me feel like at least I'm providing some value. I really hate just taking $50 on a super chat just for fun. Like, it's just the way I was raised, dude. My dad taught me, like, you got to give value. You can't, like, my dad told me never have a handout, right? Like you never ask. Like, if you're going to give value, then you ask. That's why I can never do a course. I can never justify saying, hey, pay $500 for this fucking thing that took me 10 minutes to make that I'm going to sell for the next 2 years and never work on. Like, I can never do that. I can never live with myself if I did that. That's the first thing. So I'm happy if you buy to support, you're at least supporting and you're getting something. Number two, I do think that people will use this at least weekly. And I think the marketing in terms of how I incorporate it in my YouTube videos, and I will show you a use case every day once it's live on my YouTube videos. There will be a segment of the episode every day. I have chapters. There'll be like a 2-minute segment every day of how we use this product, and it'll be interrelated with the news of Palantir every day. And the marketing is going to entice people to understand how to use the product more, and then people will actually use it. So hopefully it's actually beneficial. Is it a CARP not for work safe AI app? No, but that is definitely something that I thought of. I didn't officially decide to go that route, but it was an idea. I just didn't decide to go that route. No, I'm just kidding. But I think people will enjoy it. Can the app get you the daily emit live without going to YouTube? No, it has nothing to do with my YouTube channel. It's independent of my personal brand. A lot of people that find this thing will probably not even know about me eventually when it scales, if we can scale it really well. Tesla at 193. And I want to do it. I want it to be independent of me. I want it to be, if you're a Palantir investor, you have this access to this product. And I think there are tens of millions. And eventually, guys, think about the next 5 years. Palantir is $100, $150, maybe. Palantir is even $70, $80. The stock 2x's, 3x's from here. The amount of interest in Palantir will be in the tens of millions. And I think this will be the go-to platform people will need access to be able to capitalize on their interests. And as a result of that, for $40 a year, I think the thing could scale to maybe 10,000 subscribers, maybe 15,000. Now that's long in the future. I'm hoping, my bet is we can get 1,000 by the end of 2024. I would be ecstatic. I would go to the moon if we get 1,000 subscribers by the end of 2024. But I think the TAM is large. It's just a question of if we can keep it going up. When is it coming out? I think it's coming out early March. We're still working on it. I don't want to launch something half-assed, and I've been playing with it every day, and there's a lot of refining we have to do, so I don't want to rush the launch. And so, yeah, even though this is the time to launch, because obviously Palantir has done very well, so I know that this is the opportunity that people are in the mood to really, care about a product when Palantir is up so much. So I get that this is the right time to launch, but I'm not going to launch something half-assed too. So I'm working every day trying to make sure that this shit is ready to go and that we can launch. And even if Palantir goes back to 16, which I don't think is happening at this point, I think, here's the thing. I wanted to make sure the Q4 earnings were good enough for me to launch this, because here's the scary part I had about Q4 earnings. Not only would the stock go down if it sucked, but if it sucked, the level of interest in paying even $40 a year, which is nothing, but paying for something to let's just call it learn more about Palantir, that interest would go down significantly because the company's not actually performing. So forget the stock. The fact that the business performed was so important to me, because I was like, okay, so now this product actually has a market to launch to. Like, imagine they reported 20% year-over-year growth in US commercial versus 70%. They would not have gotten upgrades. Like the street would have been upset. They were like, what the fuck? How the boot camps are barely converting? Why are you telling us these boot camps are so amazing? You can go kiss my boot. So the street would have been really upset. And then investors would have been like, dude, why are we investing in this fucking company that can barely grow? But they put up the numbers, dude. They put up the numbers. And if they put up the numbers, I think that also gave me the market opportunity to say, hey, maybe people would actually enjoy this app. How do we invest? I'm not raising money for this, dude. I raised money already for a startup. Raising money is a lot of pressure. Also, this is not a company that's worth raising money for. I mean, this is not $1 billion idea. This is maybe an annual recurring revenue of $1 million a year if we really scale it. So I don't think there's a huge return here for investors. And I don't want to raise money because, dude, I want to build this on my own. If this ever becomes much more bigger, maybe that's something in the future. But I got to build something on my own, dude. I've already lost people money, when it comes to a startup, and it sucks, dude. It's not the most humbling thing about Aldea was when I gave the money back to investors, and I emailed all of them saying, hey, it didn't end up working. Everyone knew it was going to be a moonshot, dude. Most of the investors knew, like, dude, this is probably going to fail, but like, we're just going to, I mean, we had people throw in money that are worth many, many millions, right? So they were just like, whatever, fuck it, take some money, like, try it out. They said, hit me up when you get your next idea. And that shit almost made me cry, dude. When people really, when investors were like, hey, we'll back the next thing because we just love you, keep going, don't worry about it, there's a bump in the road, move on to the next thing. That's when I was just like, all right, this is the most blessed position I could be in. It really sucks to lose people money, even though they know 99% of startups fail. But the fact that people wanted to take another chance on me, I think I don't know. It was one of those things where it's like, you just take a second and you realize that you're very blessed to be with people that actually care about you as a person, not just you as an investment to them. And so that was really exciting. That was really important. And a lot of them were grateful we gave 50% of the money back. I mean, most startups don't do that. They blow the money on something. They, this MacBook, this iPad that I just bought, I could have said, oh, it's a business expense. And I bought the MacBook and iPad and I could have returned less money. But I said, no, once I realized that we were going to shut down, I spent my own money on everything because you can't do that anymore, right? These investor funds are not going to help the business they invested in. It's done. And so I gave myself a sort of hard cap. And by the way, I never took a salary from Aldea. That's another thing. I never took a salary. We're giving back 50% of the money and we gave it a good shot and we really tried. And so I think investors felt like that's all you can ask for at the end of the day. If a startup works or it doesn't, that it is what it is, but at least you tried and you were ethical and responsible and had integrity in terms of how you were doing this. And so as a result of that experience, I don't want to raise money again for something unless it's a really, really big idea. And right now is not not the time to do that. Not yet. Maybe in a decade from now, but not yet. Sashi says, Amit, what's the one key benefit of a Palantir investor will get out of your product? If you subscribe to this for $40 a year, you are going to have an integrated suite and access to information. I don't want to give it away, dude, but you will never have to worry about a question you have about Palantir ever again. Let's just say that. You will have knowledge at the highest of levels at your fingertips for $40 a year. Like, you can kiss Bing and Google and search and all that shit away when it comes to information about Palantir. That's what I think you will get the benefit out. And I think for a lot of people that are keeping up with this investment every day, and by the way, this only works because there's so much shit coming out about the product, about Palantir every day. There's so much information every day. They got the Dresdner Awards yesterday. Karp's writing a new book. He put out a Time article. They got the BAPCO partnership. They got the Kohl's partnership. They just had earnings. They announced all these different things at boot camps. You got Ted Marbury that's doing all this tweeting. You got Shyam Sankar talking about market caps and defense and how much the government is spending. Like, there's so many questions around Palantir that I think there's just a lot of opportunity to think about it. And so I think it's going to be exciting. I think it's going to be really, 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 really exciting. So it'll be fun. Jay Kim says, Amit lost 50% FOMOing into one-day options. Sorry, all the investors. Yeah, that's funny. They're not one-day options. First of all, they're leaps. But no, in terms of investor capital, and again, this is all public. All this is on the internet. A lot of people said this, and this is just weird, dude. People are very weird. Investor funds you can't use for personal things. Right. So our like taxes, our returns, all that shit is public. We spent money on talent, development, and office space. That's it. That's what we spent our money on. And out of the money we raised, we had 50% of that money left. I never took a salary. That's public. You can look it up online. That's you know what I'm saying? So it's funny to say, hey, you threw it into options, but that's not. First of all, I would never do that. That's incredibly illegal and unethical. Second of all, it's like publicly, that's just not true, right? So you don't have to believe me. You can look at our public financials and see what it looks like. So I think, I think investors really appreciated it at that point that we're actually we tried to do this the right way. And so J Kim says, Amit, we're just kidding. Okay, good. Because sometimes, dude, there was someone who made a comment a couple of weeks ago when I announced that Audio was shutting down, and he said the same thing. And I was like, look, I get it's a joke, but like, it's just, I could not live with myself, dude, if I used investor funds. And by the way, Chris said to do this. Chris was like, take all the money and put it into SLG when it was at $20. He's like, because it's sitting in Bank of America, it's not collecting any money. So, and SLG like almost tripled. And I was like, Chris, number one, what if SLG didn't triple? And Chris was like, yeah, but it's going to. I'm like, yeah, but you think it's going to, and I know you're the stock guru, but what if it didn't and I lost all this investor money? Number two, I think that's fucking illegal, Chris. And so Chris is just so money-minded. He doesn't give a shit. But yeah, for me, I just like that we couldn't do that, right? And we could have probably gotten a better return putting that money somewhere else, but obviously the risk associated with that is just not worth it. Robinhood 13.22, PayPal 59.14, Google 143, Google still struggling. So that's another reason I don't want to raise money, dude. I don't want to. Raising money felt like an accomplishment a year ago. Like it was really cool. But then you have to realize you have to build a business. And I think this is the thing that hits a lot of first-time founders is like, yeah, you got people to give you money. But if you don't build a business, what is the value of the money, right? The money is just like, it's like Twilio. We talked about them, right? They have all this capital, but they can't make a profit. And so once I really realized, yeah, this thing's not going to work out and we need to really do the most responsible thing. We got to give the money back. And then do I have another idea? And it took me a while. And then I was like, well, I think I have another idea. And then I just started working because that's just who I am. I just fucking get to work and try different shit. So I remember that Chris wanted you to commit a crime. Yeah, Chris was like, no, it's perfectly fine. I was like, Chris, this is illegal. This doesn't make any sense. Like Chris was like, yeah, but it'll go up. I'm like, yes, I know the investment will probably go up. SLG is probably the best value REIT in the market at $19. Right now, SLG is what, like $50? But it's illegal, Chris. You know what happened at the end too? At the end when I was like, all right, Chris, I'm giving the money back. So I called up Chris. Chris was one of the first people I called up and I was like, Chris, I don't think it's working. What do you think I should do? And Chris was just like, yeah, dude, like go in all in on content. Like Chris's advice was like, dude, you're a good guy. You're ethical. The fact that you even want to return the money is commendable. You have a gift for content. You have a knack for talking. At the end of the day, Audio was a cool idea, but that's just not something that you know is going to scale. Go deeper into what you know how to do. What do you know how to do? You know how to do community building. You know how to, I would argue, make incredibly funny jokes on live streams. Chris didn't say that. I'm putting that input there. And you know how to build an audience and really value the audience because you're not trying to sell them some shitty courses. Like you actually care about the audience. And so he said, go all in on that. And I said, all right, I think that makes sense. But then before the phone call ended, he said, wait a second. I said, what? He said, do you know the story of Warren Buffett and the sewing company? And I was like, no. And he was like, well, back in 1945, Warren Buffett raised $500,000 to start a sewing company. And he realized it was failing. And he went to the investors. I think he had like 300,000 out of the 500,000 left. And you guys can look this up on Google. And he said, hey, I'm failing at this sewing company, but can I take your 300,000 and can I invest it for people? And now Warren Buffett is sitting on like $100 billion, right? But that's how his investing career started. Warren Buffett started a startup. It wasn't a tech startup, right? It was a sewing company. It failed. And he took the money from the initial investors who gave him capital and said, let me invest it. And that's when he became a capital allocator. So then Chris on the phone call is like, why don't you just do that? And I was like, okay, so Chris, you're telling me right now to take the money we have left and go to these investors and say, let me, a 26-year-old guy who really has gotten one thing right, which is Palantir, invest their capital and try to become the next Warren Buffett. And Chris was like, yeah. And I was like, Chris, I'm hanging up right now. Like you're insane, dude. This is what I love about Chris. He's so optimistic. He's just a ball of energy, right? He's just so exciting. And he just loves he just loves going for shit and having ideas. He's like me when it comes to content. SLG's at 44 right now. He loves having fun. He says anything on air. He doesn't care. SMCI is up 10%, 968. But I was like, Chris, I'm not doing this. I'm not going to try to become the next Warren Buffett because quite frankly, I don't even think I'm that good at investing yet. I think I need like at least a good 7-8 years of returns to even think I can meaningfully allocate people's capital. And even then I would be scared shitless. Dude, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night if I, have $200,000 that I'm investing for other people, dude. Like that would be scary, dude. That's not easy. With my own money, whatever. If I lose it, I lose it. But someone else's money in the markets? Nah, dude. So that's what Chris's perspective was on all of this. But it was fun. It was funny. What point was it the business that you realized it wouldn't work? It was late December, right before Christmas. Right before Christmas, it finally hit me. I was like, we're not finding product market fit. It's not happening. And I realized what was working in my life, what was not working in my life. What was working in my life was being a content creator. Like, dude, at the end of the day, I think I'm a content creator before I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a natural creative. I've created so many things in my life in terms of just content. Like I had a YouTube channel when I was in 2009. Now, none of these were successful. I played music all day. None of this was ever successful, but I had the yearning to just keep making content. And so when I really took a hard look at myself in December, I'm like, dude, am I a tech entrepreneur or am I a content creator? And you have to have a hard look of reality and be like, I'm not Zuckerberg, but I'm maybe Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt as an actor, Zuckerberg as a tech entrepreneur, and like maybe I'm Brad Pitt. Maybe I don't look as good as Brad Pitt, but I am Brad Pitt. Okay, I'm more of the guy who wants to entertain, maybe not the guy who wants to build a big ass tech company. So this SaaS business that I'm launching in regards to Palantir, it's a tech company, but it's not like a Google, Facebook level of ambition. Like Aldea wants to be the next Spotify, right? That's not the ambition here. The ambition is, can I get a couple thousand people to subscribe for $40 a month? Like, can I do that? Or $40 a year? If it was $40 a month, this shit would be making millions if we got a couple thousand people to subscribe. $40 a year, $3 a month. Can I get 2,000 people? Can I make 100 grand off this, which is going to turn into like 60 grand after all these expenses and stuff? Can I get 60 grand in reoccurring revenue on a business that I think will be worthwhile to a lot of people that supersedes its cost? That's the idea here. And so that's what we're trying to do. What is your education background? I went to Rutgers. I have a business degree, which is whatever. It's a business degree. See, in Rutgers, so someone was asking this above, is how did Amit make any money? He was in college tutoring debate. He didn't make enough to fund a 100K plus account. Are y'all serious? Okay, so let me clarify this for people that don't know. I started a communications consulting firm when I was a freshman in college. And that communications consulting firm scaled aggressively when I was in college. Now, what does that mean? First of all, I say communications consulting because I sound really fancy, but at the end of the day, it just means a lot of rich people paid me a lot of money to either teach their kids or teach them how to do public speaking and communication. What you guys don't know is the majority of the money that I've made in my life has been from sitting on Zoom and teaching people how to talk. That's how I made my money. I started getting paid $75 an hour when I was a sophomore in college to teach people how to speak. And for a sophomore in college, when you get $75 an hour just to sit there, like, dude, it changes your whole mindset on money. I was like, why the fuck would I ever get a job if I can get someone to pay me $75 an hour to learn a skill set? And so I was the 7th best debater in the United States of America. I was the 3rd best public speaker in Europe. And so I developed a reputation after I did debate in high school, when I got into college, of like the guy who knew how to win at debate and how to speak and all this stuff. And all these parents started coming up to me. I don't even know how they found me, dude. I guess they Googled me, or they found me on Facebook, they found me on an article, and it just turned into like 10, 15 parents a week being like, hey, can you teach our kids? And I was like, okay, how much would you guys pay? And they were like, how about 50? I was like, how about 75? They were like, cool. And I was like, okay, so that's how negotiating works. I get to just ask for whatever the fuck I want and I get it. Like, these parents are so rich, they didn't care, because for them, they wanted their kids to learn the one skill set that most people need in order to be successful at the highest levels, which is communication. You can't be a CEO, you can't be an entrepreneur, you can't be a boss in life if you don't know how to effectively communicate. So for them, they were thinking, well, my kids are super shy. If this guy can help them communicate, they can win. And they were just giving me a shit ton of money, dude. I remember the first time I locked in my first $10,000 contract guaranteed. I was on FaceTime with his dad, and we were and I was like, all right, can we do $850 a month? And he was like, sure. And I was like, okay. And I was like, all right, so 3 times a week. And he was like, sure. That's about 62.5 an hour. And it was like, there was no negotiating. He was just like, yeah, sure. That's when I realized, oh, wait a second. People have a lot of money on this planet. And if I just find a way to access these people, they don't give a shit about $60, $70, $80 an hour, because they're making millions and millions a year. And by the way, they're going to do anything for their kids. Rich people will do anything for their kids. So that was the awakening I had when I was a freshman in college. I was like, oh, wait, there's a lot of people out there that want their kids to learn these skills. They have a lot of money. They actually like me. I developed a relationship. I mean, one of these guys one of these guys ended up paying me over 110 grand before taxes over 2 years. So it was like a 50K per year contract. Like, it started scaling. Senior year of college, I started making $7,000 a month. I had a revenue sharing agreement with one of my clients where on Mondays, they set up the classes and I would get a revenue share. I was making $1,500 every Monday that I worked with them. That for 4 hours, so that came out to like, what, 100 or 6 hours, $150 something an hour, because I learned how to set up these revenue sharing agreements, these negotiations. Like, I really got to learn some advanced levels of business on this very small, tiny communications consulting firm. So that's how I made my money. That's how I made my money. And that's how I got my money to invest. That's how I got my money to save up. And that's what I did. So, I know it's kind of unbelievable. I know a lot of people are just like, this doesn't make any sense. But like that's what it was, dude. And that's also what taught me that, wait a second, you can monetize anything. Like if you have a skill set and there's a market, you can monetize. So when it comes to the SaaS product for Palantir, the problem with Aldea was there was no real value proposition and there was no real market, right? They were there in the abstract, but they weren't targeted. With the debate business, there was a market, people that have kids that are rich, and then there was my skills that I could offer them. Boom. I'm still trading my time for value, so it's not the most optimal business. It's a services business, but I'm still getting paid very nicely for my time, right? Here, there's a market, Palantir investors. There's a SaaS product that has fixed costs, and then the value is this $40 a year, which is cheap, like really cheap, and there's a lot of value. Is that an opportunity where you could scale to a couple thousand people? I think so. And so we'll see. We'll see if it ends up happening. Flex says trust fund. No way. People weren't paying that to a college student with no experience. I don't know what to tell you, dude. First of all, trust fund. That's hilarious. My dad wakes up at 4:30 a.m. every morning and delivers chips across New Jersey. Not semiconductor chips, potato chips, dude. That's my dad's business. My mom has been a teacher for 20 years. She recently got upgraded 5 years ago to be an administrator. Like, dude, I wish we had a fucking trust fund. We don't have a damn trust fund. Like that, like my parents immigrated from India, dude. They don't have any fucking money. My dad worked at a gas station for 10 years. Like, we don't have any money like that. And when it comes to people paying college student with no experience, I was surprised. I'm just as surprised as you. When they agreed to pay $150 to teach their kids, I know it doesn't sound real, but the reason they paid is because they're rich and they didn't care. And they just paid. Like, I don't know what to tell you, dude. That's what it was. That's what happened. Flex says, why doesn't every single teacher just quit then and just tutor? That's too easy, mate. No, well, this argument is a bad argument, Flex. I didn't have a 401k. I didn't have health insurance. I don't have benefits. I have to 15.3% of my money goes to the government and self-employment taxes. Okay. I have to create an LLC. First of all, most people in the world don't even know how to create a business, much less an LLC, and legally get that. Like that, you have to have some level of, hunger or ambition to even make a fucking LLC. Most people in the world don't have that. A teacher is a very not relaxed life in the context of it's very hard to do work. Trust me, my sister and my mom are teachers. I know how crazy it is to be a teacher. I have so much respect and they're underpaid. But you teach and then you go home and you get a lot of vacation days, right? You don't have to worry. You're not an entrepreneur in that sense. So the benefits to being a private tutor are good for money, but it's not good for all the other benefits as well. But yeah, that's how I made my money. So that's how I did it. Its grandkids gonna have a trust fund. It's kind of crazy, dude. But like, also the other thing here that's really important is you have to be personable. So when I get on the phone with these high net worth individuals, I know they have money, okay? But I can't sound like I'm trying to extract money from them. There's a certain level of communication skills it takes to talk to someone who's rich, like really rich. And you have to know that, like, first of all, they can pay a premium, but you don't want to price gouge them. Like if I charge $500 an hour, they wouldn't have paid that, right? You know what I'm saying? Like it has to be reasonable. And you think about a rich person who's making what, 50, 60,000 a month. If they have to spend, let's say I do 1 hour with their kid for $100 an hour, 4 times a month. That's $400 a month. Do they really care about $400 a month? Do they really are they scared to take away like probably not. So then the question is, okay, the price is not an issue. You're not doing 500. You're not. And by the way, if I charged $20 an hour, it probably would have been like disgustingly cheap. And they would have been like, does this guy even have any value? Why is he so cheap? Right. So there's some psychology there. And then the second thing outside of that is, do they believe in you that you can provide the value? And that's basically a sales call, right? So I got good at scales. Now, when I step on the scale, I get good at looking at weight going up because I'm eating too much. But in terms of sales, I got good at sales, at learning how to talk to these people. And when you're talking to these people, you got to talk to them in a way that proves your value. And by the way, when you start off a phone call saying, hey, I was the 7th best debater in America, 3rd best public speaker in Europe, I mean, you kind of did the selling. So all the sleepless nights I had in high school, just working obsessively to become good at debate, which is basically what I'm doing now with YouTube, dude. Like when I get into something, I go all in. Music, I went all in on, but I sucked, so it didn't work. Basketball, I went all in on, but I wasn't tall enough, so it didn't work. Debate, I went all in on, and it fucking worked. And so all of that ended up paying off monetarily, just because, you can have some opportunities to monetize. So that's it. That's happens. Oh, Simon, I'm sorry, I missed your comment. What did you say, Simon? What did you say? What did you say? Simon, type it again in the chat. It got lost. I'm looking at all these comments. Alexander Kang says, how can people pay you for communication skills if you keep making grammar mistakes like more deeper? Let's look at the market real quick and then we'll go back. You know, what I'm trying to say is if you develop a rapport with people and you actually provide value, like, and they can feel your integrity, and that goes back to giving 50% of the money to investors, right? Like if people can feel you're an honest person, they're willing to take a chance on you, whether it comes to paying you per hour. And one thing I want to say real quick, then we'll go to the market. Let me make this point real quick. I am developing a relationship with their kids in terms of teaching them how to be a better communicator. And so I've had to deal with kids crying. I've had to deal with kids, getting super upset after they lose a big round at a tournament. I've had to deal with kids basically feeling like their entire world is over in 11th grade when they lose a round because some judge made a stupid decision in their debate tournament. Like, I was more of a therapist than I even was a debate coach. And parents can't do that because no kid wants to talk to their parent after they lose a debate round. You don't want to talk to your fucking dad who's like, oh, it'll get better. Like, no, dad, it's not going to get better. Dad, you don't understand what's going on. My life is over, right? That's what happens with your parents. So you need a third party. And a lot of parents trusted me as a reasonable third party to work with their kids in a meaningful way. Simon says, I don't even remember, but I'm just talking out of my ass, but post you playing basketball. I don't have any video footage of me playing basketball, but I was really good. The problem is I was short. Like, dude, I remember I went up to my JV coach one day in freshman year. I was starting point guard, and he came up to me after a really good practice. Like, I had a phenomenal practice. He was like, Amit, how tall are your parents? And I knew exactly where his mind was going, and I was like, they're 5'6". And he was like, all right, get the fuck out of my face. No, I'm serious. I'm not making that up, dude. That's literally what he said. Because at that moment, and I think this was like the first 2 weeks into like freshman JV tryouts, he realized I had so much potential, but I'm never gonna be tall. And so he didn't literally say get the fuck out of my face, but he kind of, I could tell he was just like, all right, whatever. You know, he was just like, all right, I can't really work with you, dude. You're not gonna get tall. Like, I can't do it. Like, that's the problem with sports. There's a fixed talent sort of mechanism you need to have to succeed. When it comes to talking, you can learn that shit if you put in the hard work, right? You need to have some natural charisma, but outside of that, you can learn how to be better at communication. And that's why debate was so exciting, because you actually work. You don't need to be, gifted at 7 feet tall to do it. Palantir 2484, Shake Shack 9320, SMCI 945, Google 142, SL Green 44, Tesla 193. Tesla's up, Lyft is up 8%, Enphase is up. Where's Robinhood? Robinhood 1315. Robinhood is not finding the momentum to get back to 14. Robinhood is just not finding the momentum to get to 14. It's tough. It's tough. How are you raised? In the context of, I guess, my parents raising me? Simple answer is my parents said to be a good person, dude. That's why I'm not charging you guys $500 for a course. I'm not trying to take the cheap way out. It's like my parents just told me to like be a good person. My parents told me to chase my dreams. They're very supportive. Indian parents usually aren't supportive of kids chasing their dreams. They're very supportive. They're telling me to go for it. And dude, the other thing is, I've said this before, but once you start making $7,000 a month when you're 20 years old, your parents kind of back off. Your parents are kind of like, okay, this kid's going to go do something in the world and I don't need to baby him, right? So by the time I turned 18, 19, my mom, and she saw the money, my mom thought I was selling weed, dude. My mom really thought and I was like, no, mom, like, I'm like, there's like a legit business here. Like, I have a fucking LLC. I have to pay taxes and shit. By the way, the first year of paying taxes, I didn't know what a write-off was. And I wrote off nothing. I could have basically paid zero. I paid like $3,000 because I didn't know you could write off things. That's how much of a noob I was, right? So this is the stuff you learn as you get into business and you start understanding this stuff. And these are the lessons, speaking of the trust fund comment, dude, like my parents didn't educate me on LLCs and all that stuff, right? Like, this is just generational knowledge that you eventually learn when you go through the business and you learn the stuff on your own. But that's how it works. So they raised me to just be an honest person. And hopefully I try to embody that in every situation. Coinbase up 3%, Airbnb up 2.9%. Wow, Airbnb recovered. It was down 4%. Now it's up 3%. Not bad. Airbnb's up 3%. That actually, did you talk about Coinbase earnings? No. So let's talk about Coinbase expectations. Let's talk about that. That's actually very important. Coinbase earnings. Okay, here's the question. Put in the chat. Do you think they're going to be profitable? Do you think they're going to be profitable? I think they're going to inch out a profit. I think they will, but I'm a little scared because if they don't, they've already gone up 5x. I don't know what the market's thinking in the context of where they're going to put Coinbase. So They're expecting, I think, about 800 million in revenue. They did 623 million last quarter. Sorry, about 700 million in revenue. Coinbase right now, and I think the street is expecting about 1 cent a share, which means if they show profits and they're at 165 all time, or 52-week high was 187. Bitcoin, by the way, where's Bitcoin right now? Bitcoin, oh wow, Bitcoin took a dip. Bitcoin fell 1,000 points. So Bitcoin fell 1,000 points, but Bitcoin still at 51.8. Bitcoin above 50 with Coinbase having that institutional custodian product showing that BlackRock, Fidelity, they're all using their shit, and that transaction volumes and trading volumes are not going down. They have to say retail trading is not going down, even though they're ETFs. They have to make the point on the call that ETFs are good, but it's not taking away from our business. The market will reward them. If they say that they're seeing some weakness, it's not going to be the best. It's not going to be the best. So we're going to see what happens. Flex, you said, where do we rank people? Let me just show you right here real quick. It's a website called tabroom.com. I'll put it in the chat, but let me show you my ranking real quick. So we go to results. We go to, where is it? We go to this thing, then you go to this thing, then you go to 2015. I'm going to show you guys right here, dude. There's nothing to hide. This is here. You got number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7. I think that's my name. Number 7 in the country. It should have been number 6, quite frankly. It should have been number 6. By the way, I beat number 5, I beat number 4, and I beat number 1. I lost to number 2 and I lost to number 3. But number 1, 4, and 5, I beat them. Oh, and number 6, I never went against. So I beat everyone in the top 5. I just ended up being number 7 because I just didn't have enough points to get in the top 5. So yeah, I'll send this in the chat. You can check it out. But anyway, that's what I'm thinking on Coinbase. Now, if Coinbase says, look, the ETFs are screwing over our retail trading, and they're not going to say screwing over, they're just going to show in their demand side numbers that it's going down, that's going to be bad. Case in point, on Robinhood's earnings, one of the analysts was like, hey, do you think the ETFs are taking away activity from the trading of Bitcoin? Because remember, Robinhood makes like 35 cents on every dollar on Bitcoin. I think they make a couple pennies on every dollar traded on the ETFs. And the CFO immediately realized that if he fucked up on this question, they were not going to have a good upgrade from that analyst. And he immediately took the question. He said, so what we're seeing here is that the ETFs are additive, not subtracting from our volume in crypto. Like he really made sure that analysts did not have any doubts about the ETFs taking away from the crypto exposure, because crypto is big for Robinhood. It's big for Coinbase in terms of the transaction fees. Robinhood has much cheaper transaction fees, which is why I think they're better than Coinbase. But Coinbase takes a good chunk. Coinbase was charging me $14 to send $1,000 over Bitcoin over the network. Robinhood charged me $2. Now I know people were like, oh, the network fees were high at that time. I tried sending them at the same time at 8:30 p.m. back in January. I put a tweet about this. Why is Coinbase 5x more expensive? Like Coinbase is just expensive, dude. And so if they say that their fees are coming down, or the volume of transactions they have to get their fees are coming down, Robinhood now 1307, Wall Street's not going to like that. So this earnings call is going to be really interesting. We're going to listen to this. We're going to listen to this earnings call today at 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. and we'll see what they have to say. Gigi Rennick says, love your channel. It's truly my favorite. You are likable, intelligent, and own 43,000 shares of Palantir. Gigi, what average do you have on that? That's incredible. I love it. That's so awesome. Thank you for being here on the channel. What average do you have on your Palantir? Dude, 43,000 shares is incredible, man. Absolutely incredible. That's a lot of shares. I got to get, that's what I want to get to the point in my life where when I say I have a share count of something, it's like 10,000 share minimum. But that's incredible, dude. If you have 43,000 shares, you're doing well in life, and you're getting up there. And all of us, I think, in the chat that are not at that level, we're trying to get there. Because if we can get there where we're owning tens of thousands instead of, like hundreds of shares of a company, things change, dude. Things really change. Like you could have bought 10,000 shares of Robinhood at $11 and sold it at 13 and still made a ton of money just because it's only a $2 increase, but you bought so many shares, right? When you have more money to play with, you just have more opportunities as well. Shout out to Jeremy, dude. Jeremy, I got to show your picture, or I got to show your tweet. My guy, Jeremy, he tweeted this yesterday. Jeremy, for those that don't remember, he was the person who I had a stream on my channel, and he was addicted to heroin for 9 years. He's gone on and off with drugs, and now he's up. What is it, Jeremy? I can't find the picture. Let me know in the chat. He's up like what, 130 on Palantir, 130 grand. I mean, for someone to go from being addicted to drugs, going in and out of jail, to being up 6 figures on Palantir, dude, like that's fucking, I was so happy I got to meet him and talk to him. Like, this is what this Palantir community has. These are the people that were in this community, you know? It's a really special community, man. And we're in the beginning stages. You'll find people like this in Tesla, but Tesla doesn't matter. That story played out. Now it's just how big can that story get? This story is just playing out. 185%. I got it right on the dot. 130K. I got it right on the dot. 130K. That's amazing, dude. That's almost 200% on one stock. It's amazing, man. It's amazing. I thought you were talking about Jeremy Financial Education. No, I'm talking about my here, Jeremy Stanky Wees. I'm sorry if I'm saying it wrong, Jeremy, but that's his name. He's up 185%, which is incredible. Zebig BlackRock says, hi, Amit. Sorry, a bit late today. That's okay, Zebig. Thank you for being here. We actually ended up going longer today. Talking about a bunch of stuff. What does it take for Palantir to get to 500? That's $1 trillion market cap. I personally don't believe that's happening. I think that can happen many, many years from now. Like, I'm talking about maybe 20 years from now. I think $250 to $300 is more reasonable. That's more of an Oracle Salesforce type of arc. Palantir to get to 500 needs to win so many government contracts, needs to have a consumer product, needs to do a lot of things. And maybe that's a good video. We can talk about what does it take for them to get to 500. I think all of NATO has to buy Gotham. Right now, they're not buying Gotham. And Alex Karp is calling them out publicly about that. The U.S. JADC2 contract, which is going to be, tens and tens of billions over the next decade, Palantir has to get like 80% of that, right? Palantir has to scale U.S. commercial way more than 40% year over year. And then they have to have some type of consumer-facing product that can actually scale to that level. So I think Palantir has to do a lot of work to get to 500, but I think Palantir can get to 250 just building the enterprise business, and that's a good, 10x from here, which is not bad. What did Warren buy if he sold Apple? He bought some SiriusXM, which is an internet company for audio. They're kind of like a media company, but he doesn't. He didn't buy a lot of stuff. He bought some Oxy as well. I think last night Oxy's up 3%. Yeah, look at that Oxy. I think he bought some more Oxy, but he definitely sold 10 million shares of Apple. Let's look at the Mag 7. Mag 7 are all red except Tesla and Meta. Wow, Meta's trying to hit 52-week highs, all-time highs. Meta's at 480, dude. They hit 485 on that earnings bump. Meta's just been one of the best investments anyone could have made in the past 2 years, dude. Meta is just incredible. It's I picked Google over Meta at 395 when Google was 139. I could have invested in Meta as my big tech play at 394. I picked Google at 139. Google's at 142. Meta's at fucking 480. And they're giving a dividend. Like, it is so sad that I picked that. It is so sad. It's not, but I picked Google. I picked Google. CleanSpark dropping a little bit. Yeah, I think we're getting into lunchtime in a little bit. So CleanSpark's down 3%. Lunchtime, people are going to take a break, and then we'll go back at 2 p.m. and see what ends up happening. And we'll see things play out. Palantir also 24.93 right now, down 1% on the day. All right, folks, that's it. I'm going to get out of here. Again, if you want to, I know we started this whole conversation when I was talking about the demo that I'm launching, but I will be launching it. It'll be probably in March. I think you guys will enjoy it. I think $40 a month is going to hopefully supersede the value that you would be paying for it. Twitter in the chat. If you want to get access to the demo, you can DM me, and I'll try to get you access to the demo. And I think it'll be fun, and we'll keep going from there. Kevin Smith said, I bought Meta at 82, sold at 180. Dude, it's tough. It's like SMCI, right? It's like SMCI. The thing just kept running. And look, 180 was a good sell, but no one thought the QQQ would go this crazy. Word of the day. Taradiddle.
Taradiddle.
A small lie or a fib. Taradiddle.
Taradiddle.
Interesting. Okay. Sorry, $40 a year, not a month. Sorry, $40 a year. Yes, $40 a year. So that Flex guy in the chat thought that I was taradiddling about my debate business, but no, dude, it wasn't a lie. It's real. I'm gonna see some other stuff I can show you guys about debate. I have so many debate videos. I have just a bunch of debate content that I've never posted. I want to show you guys one day. But yeah, taradiddled. I was not taradiddling about my debate business. I was just about to say, I think that word's such a cool word because, whenever a market, like whenever a CEO says some stupid shit on an earnings call, at this point, we're just going to say, oh, he's taradiddling. And the 658 people that are here for the word of the day, and anyone who watches this after, I promise I'm going to do this. Next time I think a CEO is saying some bullshit, like if Brian Armstrong is saying some bullshit tonight, we're going to pause the earnings call, say he's taradiddling right now. No one's going to know what the fuck that means, except the 641 people that are here right now and the people that have watched this. You guys it'll be an inside joke. We know what it means. And I'm not going to say what it means. I'm just going to say he's taradiddling. That's it. All right. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. This was awesome. We'll see you back at 3:45 for the market close. Have a good day. And we'll see where this market goes at the end of the day. Thank you, everybody. Have a good one. See you later.